What is up, everyone? Welcome back to some more Higurashi. In the previous recording session, we finally got the true story of Chapter 8 underway. We finally finished up watching all the fragments. We've collected all our fragments. We've actually begun the story, and things have begun to progress quite quickly. Hanyu is now a student with the other classmates, so she's now an actual corporeal figure in the story. And then, shortly after running into Takano, the story has very much progressed. Hanyu sees Takano and is immediately like, Rika, that's Takano. But then Rika doesn't remember anything from the last chapter, and that's a mystery that's up in the air we still need answers for. But then all of a sudden, she's talking to Irie, trying to figure things out with Irie. She's talking to the club, trying to figure things out there. She's talking to Tomitake. Okay, Oishi and Akasaka show up, and they're like, hey, we're in the story now, too. So things are just progressing very rapidly. And where we last immediately left off, Oishi he hadn't quite got all the answers given to him, because he didn't want all the answers. He wants to earn his answers, right? But he did get the bombshell dropped on him that the Sonozakis have had absolutely nothing to do with the mysterious deaths over the last 5 years, and that all this work he's been doing hasn't quite been for naught, but he's been doing it. He's been going down the wrong path to get to it. But at least he does know now that the Sonozakis aren't the party responsible for the death of his friend and whatnot. And he's kind of conflicted as to whether he wants to stay a part of the investigation, because Akasaka pretty much said, hey, if you join in on this, you're probably gonna end up losing your pension. All that retirement money you've been saving up for, it's gonna be out the window. And I don't want to do that to you. I don't want that to happen to you. So Oishi's conflicted. Do I just give up and take the money? Do I, retain my honor as a police officer and continue to fight evil? Oishi's very conflicted. And that is immediately where we pick up. So without further ado, let's jump back into it, shall we? Oishi left with a cigarette in his mouth, saying that he wanted to cool off a little. Shit, I forgot to click back into the game. There we go.
Takano-sanが白か黒か、それがわからないことには話が進みませんね。富武さんの方の結果を待ってからしか動くことはできない。
リカちゃんがなぜ高野さんをそこまで疑うのか。でもリカちゃんの言うことにも一理はあった。リカちゃんは大切な身なんだ。その周りには疑わしいものはわずかほども存在してはならないからね。
Tomitake's making it sound like he's going to prove Takano's innocence. I mean, that's fine if that's his goal, as long as he's investigating. I guess I can't blame him since he's in love with her. To be honest, I'm also hoping that Takano isn't guilty. Takano understands me, and she was one of my allies. I had a friendship with her. I've trusted her for over 100 years. But Hanyu says that Takano is guilty. If something pops out when we poke her, then the question is how well Tomitake can catch it. To get people to help me, I have to find proof of Takano's guilt. So I just have to trust Tomitake for now.
富武さん、くれぐれも、もし相手が黒ならば、あなた分かってます。
すぐに宿を入江機関に内緒で変更します。本当はすぐにひなみ沢を離れた方がいいのでしょうが、もし高野さんが黒ならば、それはかえって逆効果です。
難しいところですね。内定中は普段通りに装うのが処方ですから。もしよろしかったら私の宿に入りますか？
いえ、それには及びません。大丈夫。十分に注意します。
ということはどうしたものか。
どうしよう。羽生、どうしたらいいと思う？将棋に例えたら理科はむき出しの王将です。理科さえ抑えればこのゲームは高野の勝ちになりますです。将棋の定石はまず王将の守りを固めよね。はい、今日は木曜日、綿流しはしあさって。最低でも綿流しの日まで誰にも知られず、そして一番安全なところに避難するべきかもしれないです。
Well, okay, I could see that. I was like, why would you need to hide until Watanagashi? Because that's when things are gonna really amp up. But yeah, no, if we're trying to avoid, if we're trying to break at least all the rules, which one of the rules being that both Tomitake and Takano have to die, it would definitely throw them for a loop if Rika's not there. It will throw Takano's plans for a loop. She wouldn't just needlessly kill Tomitake if she thought the plan was compromised. At least that's the assumption to work with, so actually that's not a bad idea.
そんなうまい場所あるかしら。僕はそこはミオンに頼るべきだと思いますです。
I was like, yeah, did you not... was that a bluff for you mentioning Mion's name?
そうね。園崎本家の地下サイグレンは立てこもるにはとても理想的。そこへは聡子も連れて行くべきだと思いますです。聡子を残して私だけが消えれば、
True.
その行方は聡子が知っているに違いないということになる。
Okay. Okay. When they tell us that the Watanagashi Meikashi chapters kind of gave us a little hint to something that was kind of subtle if you weren't paying attention, it's the fact that Rika and Satoko can disappear under that base into that underground storehouse and no one will ever find them. That's the thing. No one could possibly get in there. No one could possibly storm in and find her. Because that's the thing, like, not even the mountain dogs, right, went in there. Because obviously once Rika turns up missing, you think the mountain dogs would be like, well, God, we got to know where she's at. She's a key part of this. And Takano would think the same thing, like, no, I need Rika. Even for her dastardly plan, Takano would be like, I need Rika for this. If I don't have Rika, it throws everything out of whack. So she would put the mountain dogs on there, in which case they clearly did not get into the Sonozaki basement. Okay. So yeah, both girls would be safe there. This is true. And in this run, compared to last time, she didn't go to Takano and ask for extra protection, right? So it's not like the mountain dogs are watching her every move like they were before. Okay.
残せば聡子にも危険が及んでしまうわね。
That means I'll have to tell the truth to at least Satoko and Mion, that the comic plot we discussed wasn't just fiction. Still, I always seem to underestimate their reliability. It really is beyond my imagination. What about Hanyu? What about Hanyu? Would she not be staying with Rika and Satoko? I need to talk to them. I have a feeling they'll believe me. They're my steadfast allies, after all. Absolutely.
僕たちはしばらくの間、ミーの家なら身を隠すことができる場所がありますの。
そこはとても安全？
はい。秘密の防空壕みたいなとこ、中には何でもあって、1ヶ月くらいこもることもできるに違いないです。
The Sonozaki family's underground storehouse is every basic necessity, in case someone actually had to live there due to some complication or another. Mion has mentioned before that's like a unique vacation house. I don't know how you can call a place with a torture room a vacation house, though.
高野さんの調査がすぐわかるか、何かわかったらミオンちゃんの家に連絡するということで。
それが助かりますです。
今だから白状するけど、山犬は保安上の理由からリカちゃんの家の電話を盗聴できるようにしている。その方が都合がいいね。
僕の恥ずかしい話は全てみんなに聞かれていたのです。
いや、聞ける設備が設けてあるだけで普段の会話を全て聞いてるわけじゃないんだ。年に数回ある保安訓練の際にそれをしているだけなんだよ。
多分診療所の私の電話も盗聴されてるんでしょうね。
ええ、そこは施設の性格上からご了承いただきたいところです。
失礼。その盗聴の具体的方法は？
リカちゃんの家に引いてあるで、それが神社の裏側のそこへ引かれていて、そこで盗聴することができます。通常は無人ですが、山犬に対し要人警護命令が出ると常時2名の通話監視員が常駐し、もちろん普段は録音していません。
近日中に保安訓練の予定は？また要人警護命令が出る予定は？
保安訓練は1月4月ですから今月はありません。要人警護命令は何か緊急事態が起こると予想される場合に発令されますが、
発令の権限者は？
所長、つまり私ですが、高野さんは事実上の所長代行なので、私に代わって。
もし高野氏が 本当にリカちゃんを狙う黒幕なら、
その可能性は。
ということは、その小屋に何者かが出入りするようになったら、リカちゃんの近辺に緊張が増した証拠であると読み取っていいわけですね。
高野さんが黒幕である証拠になる。リカさんの周辺に危険が迫っている可能性が高いと。
確かに、高野氏が黒であろうと白であろうと、その小屋が監視されている一方で、実際には他の場所に避難していると。なるほど。うまい手かもしれない。
でもリカ、夜に明かりもつかなかったら、家が無人なのはすぐにバレてしまいますです。高野たちは盗聴などしなくても、夕方か夜頃にその様子を見るだけで、学校を休んでいるのは仮病で、僕たちが気づいて逃げ出したのだと知ってしまうに違いないのです。
それもそう。そしてそれは高野のことを調べている。確かにどうにかしたい点ね。
さっき赤坂が言っていた盗聴をしている小屋、それから大風で寝込んでいることを装うための明かりのつけ消し。
If only there was someone else who lived in that shack aside from Rika and Satoko. If only there was another physical body we could have in there to turn the lights on when it was right, turn the lights off when it felt right, you know, and that the fellas could still observe. Interesting. If only something like that were to exist.
それからいざという時、赤坂が村の中にいてくれる方がいいというのを3つ合わせてあうあうしますと、
Oh.
あうあうあう、一つの提案が。
赤坂を私の家に泊まらせようってこと？ダメ絶対ダメ。
Why, Rika? You've been writing secret journal entries?
全然片付いてないし、臭いし汚いしみっともないし、赤坂なんか絶対に入れられない。ダメ。
赤坂がお泊まりなのですよ。
ダメだってダメ。やだ。
リカちゃんは何？
ちょっと取り乱してニパー。
Jeez, just because Hanya's insisting, okay? Oh, Rika. Oh, now even Rika's hitting the ow now. Oh, come on, I want that voiced.
リカちゃんの家がもぬけの殻になる。つけっぱなしにしても、未明までつきっぱなしではすぐ怪しまれてしまう。
僕がいない間、赤坂が僕のお家にお泊まりするという。
なるほど、それはうまい手かもしれない。リカちゃんさえ良ければその手で行きましょう。
Akasaka seems to think it's a pretty good idea. Am I selfish for wanting him to get a little embarrassed about staying at my house? Yeah, oh man, he just sees me as a little girl. I'm not a woman in his eyes. I should be ashamed of myself. God damn it, stop putting the ow in the eternal monologue. I want to hear Rika say it. Everything is set. Tomitaki is going to get in touch with his colleagues in Tokyo and start an investigation on Takano. That's all. That's all we can do from our end. Irie is going to lead his normal life. To act normally after something like this will be pretty difficult, but there really isn't anything else for him to do right now. Takano is sly. She'll never let Irie ruin her plans. Actually, Irie only comes into the picture after Takano's been exposed. She didn't say he would help, but he said he wouldn't interfere with us. In fact, there are some people with ties to the mountain dogs at the police department, too. Probably best if she acts normally like Irie is. I'm going to tell Satoko the truth and hide at Mion's house for a while, starting today. I don't know how long I'll have to hide, but it'll be at least until something happens. Akasaka's going to stay at my house to make it look like I'm homesick. If something happens, coming all the way from Okonomiya would take too long. Feels much better to have him stay in the village. Everything will begin only once Tomitaki finds out something. Irie says he hopes things will get moving soon. I don't think we need to worry about that. He'll try to kill Tomitaki on the night of Watanagashi, on Sunday, 2 days from today. That has never changed in many, many worlds, so that's definitely their plan. In other words, even if Tomitaki doesn't find anything, the wheels will start turning in 2 days. I'd warn Tomitaki again to be extremely careful. But still, if I get killed, I'll curse your family for 7 generations after I die. Okay. It's already getting dark. Everyone went home except for Akasaka. Still thinking about how to tell Satoko about Akasaka and also about what's to come.
悩んでもしょうがないのですよ。
Yep.
リカの悪い癖は仲間を過小評価しているところだと思い。
とは言う、今日学校でみんなで楽しく話していた下手をすればあなたも殺されますなんて急に言って
Gotta take that
信じ
leap.
てくれ。それに聡子にとって
聡子が信じないと思いますか？
Yeah, have faith.
それはわかんないけど、その可能性もあるでしょ。
なんだ、聡子は友達じゃなかったのですね。
Cooker. What Hanya just said startled me. Kind of a scary thing to hear, even though she said it while wearing her usual warm smile.
僕は聡子は仲間だと信じていますから。聡子に話せばきっと信じてくれて味方になってくれると信じています。
Yeah, if anyone's the homie, it's Satoko, alright? Especially when it comes to Rika, it's Satoko. Make no mistake.
でもリカは聡子を信じられないと言っています。それはリカにとって聡子が友達ではないということです。
And I never thought I'd see... After the last chapter, I never thought I'd be on Hanyu's side so much, but goddamn it, you're so right.
その程度の存在なら話しても時間の無駄なのです。
Cooker.
聡子
Get
な
it
ん
through her
かほった
fucking
ら
head
か
to
して
trust the homies.
僕たちだけでミオンのところに行っちゃいましょうです。
バカ、そんなわけない。聡子は私の一番の親友で。
リカが真実を話す価値がないならリカの言う一番の親友なんて野良猫に毎日餌をあげてるだけと同じ程度です。リカは聡子のことをそんな程度で済まわしていたとは。
誰もそんなこと言ってないで。聡子は親友よ。私の一番のね。そうよ、あんたよりも。
でも信じてくれると野良猫に餌をやって日々を一方的に愚痴るだけの関係。猫さんは何もできないって分かってるから、その上で愚痴ってるだけの。はあ、聡子はかわいそうにリカの一番の親友だと信じているのに。は
こんな。
I tried to slap Hanya, but I couldn't touch her. My hand went through her cheek and hit only the air. Can't believe she made herself incorporeal again. Also, that's awesome that she can just do that. Like, she can pop up and be physical, because, like, she was there speaking in person to Oishi, right? But then she can just, like, fade out again and be like, hey, yeah, I'm a spirit again. Oops. Anya disappeared, saying ow ow in a teasing manner. I'm upset, but I can only totally understand what she was getting at.
リカちゃんの同居人は
納得させます。聡子はこの陰謀に何の関係もないですが、聡子のためにも僕が説明しないと。
私は外で待ってた方が。
いいえ、赤坂が一緒にいてくれた方が冗談ではないと分かっ。僕にうまく説明できない時には助け舟。
分かったよ。
I went up to the second floor with Akasaka. To be honest, I couldn't even imagine how to start bringing it up. Yeah, I will say that broaching the topic, especially when you just bring a guy into your home like that, like just walking through the front door with some guy, like I'm sure it's, you know, Satoko's definitely gonna be taken aback at first. But even Hanya made fun of me. Can't hesitate. I made up my mind, walked into the room, and was surprised. My mess room is all cleaned up. Satoko's packing her pajamas and towels into her duffel bag, as if she's going on a camping trip.
聡子、ただいまなのです。はい、理科の分の荷物まで。まさかミオンさんに歯ブラシやタオルまで借りるわけにはいかないでございましょう。それに見ず知らずの男性の方をこんな散らかったお部屋に入れるわけにもいきませんし、だから私普段からもう少しお片付けをしましょうって言ってたんではございませんの。
I blinked in surprise. I understand why Satoko already knows what's going on, Hanyu. If she saw me, Irie, and Tomitaki talking behind the shrine with Oishi and a strange man, she'd be sure to get curious. Satoko must have overheard our conversation. Not only that, she packed our luggage and cleaned our room, which means she already knows Akasaka's going to stay in this house. She must have come home in a hurry to get things done.
漫画なんかの話じゃ私理科のそういうとこ。私が理科の話を信じなかったことがありまして、私こそが理科に一番最初に頼ってもらえる親友でいるつもりでしたのに。ごめんなさいなのです。
Satoko doesn't seem that angry. Rather, she seems shocked that what we talked about at school is real. She isn't really that upset. This is exactly what Hanyu said. I thought Satoko was my best friend, yet I couldn't trust her completely. Having realized this, I apologized. Satoko turned around as if to tell me there's no time for apologies. I think she accepted it. As proof of that, she's getting things ready to go to Mion's house. Thank you, Satoko.
赤坂さんでござい。リカとどういうご縁かは存じませんけど、リカの味方なら私の味方でもありますわ。北条聡子と申しますわ。
よろしく。赤坂といい、リカちゃんを取り巻く陰謀はあまりにそれを打ち明け、拒絶されるかもしれないことに怯えていた彼女の気持ちを。
そんなことは分かっ。私はリカの一番の親友。その私に信じてもらえなかったら、世界中で誰にも信じてもらえないということですのよ。なら臆病になるのも分かろうというものですわ。
聡子ちゃんは本当に大人です。そんなあなたに親友と呼んでもらえるリカちゃんが羨ましいです。
Satoko took Akasaka around the house and explained everything. She let him know that the switch for the hot water heater sticks a little and that if the picture on the TV gets messed up, he needs to tap on it. She even told him about all the traps she set around the shrine using a secret map of hers. Akasaka listened to her dead seriously. Upon seeing them talk, I couldn't help but smile. Hanyu also smiled while watching us, but it felt like she was saying I told you so. I'm going to pretend that I didn't notice her.
ひねくれ者の聡子がこれくらい簡単に信じてくれるんだから、疑い知らずの圭一も信じるだろうし、
Keiichi doesn't
こう
even
いう
know how to
時は
tell.
やたらと勘のいいレナも信じてくれるだろうし、どいつもこいつも
Hanyu didn't reply, but she smiled.
私の話を疑いもせずに信じてくれるのかしらね。
But she smiled as if she's happy to see that I grew a little.
冷蔵庫の蓄えも十分ですわね。リカ、せっかくお留守をお願い。今夜くらいご馳走しないと失礼に当たります。それに万が一ということがありますもん。ミオンさんの家へはもう少し遅くなってからお伺いした方がいいです。
そんな、こう見えても食事くらいなんとかできますので。
リカの手料理をご馳走するチャンスなのですよ。
今日のあんたは調子に乗りすぎ。そうね、さとこ。そうそう、冷蔵庫に入ってるそれじゃない。懲罰用じゃなく死刑判決って書いてある。今日はキムチチャーハンにしましょう。
赤坂、辛いのは大丈夫ですか？
ああ、辛いのも大好きだよ。
Yeah, after Hanyu's been taunting her, she's like, yeah, something super spicy. Hell yeah.
それと冷蔵庫のシュークリームは残念。モグラの高級店の今日はうるさ。
野良犬でも吠えてるのかしら。
Night is falling on the 16th of June. The pieces are lining up on the final game board, one after another. No, pieces isn't the right word to call them. Night is falling on the 16th of June. We're gaining reliable allies for this final challenge. Our first key, Tomitake, will be killed in 3 days. Fate is going to change before that point. Fuck yeah. I do love that Satoko was just being a fucking snoop, overheard everything. It's just like, yeah, I'm packing. Duh. I love Satoko.
「古田さんと北条さんは今朝風邪をひいたので、今季節の変わり目で大変風邪をひきやすい時期です。暑いからといってお腹を出したりして寝ないように。いいですね。
はあ、二人とも一緒に住んでるから一緒に風邪ひいちゃったんだ。リカちゃん、あさっての綿流しだけど、巫女さんの役大丈夫なのかな？
祭りはみんなで遊ぼうって話なの。明日にはケロッと治ってほしいもんだ。なあよ、帰りにみんなでお見舞いにでも寄らないか？何か冷たいものの差し入れでも持ってさ。
その必要はないよ。それより二人ともさ、今日の帰りおじさんの家に寄ってもらいたいんだけど、いいかな？
Yeah, and usually enjoys ideas like bringing people food when they're sick. For For whatever reason, she was a little curt today. Almost misread the word curt. Actually, she's been acting a little different since this morning. Even when I talked to her, her thoughts seemed somewhere else. Now she's asking Randa and me to stop by at her house.
みーちゃんの家？何かあるの？
うん。ちょっと大切な話があるんだよ。ここではできない。
Leon seemed calmer than usual, which told me that it was about something very serious. Also, I just realized how much of a major move that is, the fact that Satoko is also being allowed to stay there, given, you know, the history. There are always lots of patients running to the clinic just before lunchtime. Because of that, lunchtime at the clinic is always later than normal people's. Just a short break, though. Our afternoon shift begins right away. The staff were enjoying their evening break, eating their delivery lunches. They can eat basically anywhere they want, as long as the patients can't see them and it's not a place we need to keep sterile. Because it's hot and humid, the meeting room with its air conditioner ends up being a popular place. The staff all eat their takeout lunches there. As I'm the director of this clinic, they might feel uncomfortable eating with me around. So I usually eat my lunch in the director's office out of consideration for them. Today I ordered lunch from a soba shop. I got an extra large serving of morisoba, that is. For whatever reason, they just call the dish an extra large. That makes ordering it complicated, since if I order an extra large and a kitsune udon, they'll just deliver an extra large kitsune udon instead. But is this really a large? Looks more like a regular size to me. As I recall, the owner of the restaurant has hurt her hip, so she must be having a hard time keeping things running. Still thinking about that when Takano-san came in. What's the problem? She was carrying a really large size order in her hands. Apparently she ordered a regular morisoba and grabbed the wrong one by mistake. What a hassle.
本当に分かりづらいですわよね。
Did you do something to his food?
何か目印になるものでも。
同感で、例えば、大盛りって書いたお子様ランチの旗みたいなのが立ててあるとかね。
They could put a sticker on it that says, "This the big one." Takano-san must have liked that idea. She laughed for a while.
よかったらご一緒にどうです？
I invited her to sit on the
で
sofa.
はせっかくすみません。冷房をちょっぴりで。
ええ、それはよいしょ。ピピッと。
Come to think of it, I haven't really talked too much with her. We were rather distant from each other, partly over the guilt of the organization becoming the Irie Institute. So that, in our respective positions, we had a taciturn agreement not to pry too deeply into each other. Since our attitudes towards our research are different, we never mingled before. Chatting over lunch is a good way to get closer to her. Wonder what she likes to talk about while eating. I guess I should start a peaceful conversation. I wanted to go off about something like tapeworms. We're having lunch after all. While I tried to come up with a topic, she started talking instead.
さっきの懐かしいですわね。今時のお子様ランチにはまだ旗は立っているんでしょうか。
さあ、ああいうのは一つの様式ですからね。案外、もっと未来になって宇宙旅行が実現するような時代になっても、宇宙船の機内食のお子様ランチには旗が立っているような気がします。
それはなんだか。そんな未来になっても子供たちはあの旗を夢中になって集めるのかしら。
旗を？おやおや、そんなことをされていたんですか。
あら、所長は子供の頃にしませんでした？
Wasn't that mentioned at some point? Yeah, okay, that's right. Takano did do that. Because her parents, like, took her to one of those, like, to, like, there was, like, a certain restaurant by the station her parents went to, right? That's why she was upset when her parents didn't come home, you know, when the accident happened. Because she thought they went to the restaurant and she just had one more flag to collect. Just one more flag and she would have had the whole collection.
お子様ランチの旗。
まさか、私たちが子供の頃のお子様ランチと言ったら、私の家ではとてもとても。
そんなことありませんわ。うちは貧乏でしたけど、たまにデパートに家族で行くと当時の私にとってはデパートに連れて行ってもらえるのは、だから両親が私の留守の間にデパートへ行ってしまうと
高野さんの子供時代もとても素敵そうですね。
でも私一人を残してデパートへ出かけて、二人ともバスの事故に巻き込まれて死んでしまいま
Your
した。
childhood sounds like it was a great one. Oh. So how are you and enjoying the soba today, man.
その連絡が来るまで私はずっと両親を恨んでて、今頃デパートのレストランで私をのけ者にして美味しいものを食べてるに違いないってあと1本で旗が20本が小さな目標だったので、ひどい話ですわね。
Must have been horrible to lose her parents at the age when she was still interested in collecting flags from kids' meals. It's obviously still a painful memory for her.
そうです。それは知りま。ひょっとして、それが医師をああ、いえ、私が医師を目指したのは、自分の家族に関わることが理由。
私が医師免許を取ったのは、ひなみ沢症候群により近づくために必要だったからです。失礼な言い方をすれば、研究のため、ついでに取った免許ですわね。
How interesting. Even when she was still at medical school, she already knew about Hinamizawa syndrome.
そういえば、こんな初歩の高野さんは、どこでひなみ沢症候群、高野先生の研究を掘り出すうちに、医大に通われていた頃に、医師の勉強と並行して、もう症候群の研究に私など盆栽でしたので、医師の勉強だけで精一杯でしたから。
ひなみ沢症候群の研究に携わったのは、もっともっと前からですわね。
What does she mean? How old was she when she first found out about the syndrome? In fact, why did she become familiar with it at all?
私の実家は、さとこちゃんやりかちゃんたちと同じで、それで施設に引き取られて。あの頃、繊細孤児ってまだまだいたでしょ。そういうのを集めて、補助金だけをせしめるのを目的にしたような、そこを脱走した時に助けてくれ高野先生でした。
では、あなたは高野先生と生活なされていたのですか？なるほど。研究資料に若くして触れることができていたのも、しかし、なぜそれを伏せられていたのですか？
大人の事情ですわ。奇病研究のために予算を求めるのと、死んだおじいちゃんの研究のために予算を求めるのでは、少々事情が変わってきます。
なるほど。長いことの疑問があなたが高野先生を語る時の尊敬の眼差しは、一研究者に対するものとしては、しかしそこまで高野さんに尊敬させるとは、よほど人徳のある。
さて、誰にも理解してもらえず、ずっと孤独に研究して、祖父は孤独を愛する悪い癖がありましたので、協力者を得られなかったんですわね。
でも、高野さんという優秀な助手がいたじゃないですか。そういえば、高野さんも先生も。
ええ。本当の祖父に敬意を表して同じ、本当は漢字も同じにしたいのですが、クライアントに説明するときに誤解されたくないと思い、読みだけを残して漢字を変えたんですわ。
Now I can see the connection between their two last names. That also revealed the connection between first names Hifumi and Mio, too. She doesn't need to tell me anything more than that. She lost her parents when she was young, and Dr. Takano took her in and loved her as if she was his own child. To show her love and respect, she decided to call him her grandfather. Now I know. That's the reason why she's devoted herself to researching Hinamizawa syndrome. I now understand how she must feel, knowing her research is soon to be terminated. Dick-chan had said that she was hurt. Although I didn't know anything about it, I may have said something to hurt her before. I only cared about treatment and extermination, didn't care about anything else until today. She must have considered that blasphemous towards her grandfather. Now I know why she became aggressive every time I expressed how I felt. After she was told that her research would be terminated, she stayed up all night and gathered up lots of documents. She went to Tokyo and requested an extension without depending on anyone else. And that request was rejected. The documents she used are now in a box in the underground storage. She must have exerted a lot of effort to put them together. Even someone without any knowledge of our research could easily understand what she was trying to say. However, it looked like some of those documents weren't even opened. And some had marks that told me they weren't treated the way documents are supposed to be. I'm sure some pages had absorbed her tears without me ever knowing. I heard from Tokyo that Takano-san left a terrible impression with the board of directors. It's not easy to overturn a bad impression. In other words, she can never request an extension on her research ever again. I was there when she found out about it. I was there when she found out she could no longer continue her grandfather's research, even though she must have promised him that she would complete it.
高野さんは入江機関閉鎖。
入江機関が閉鎖するときには、症候群は撲滅されています。病原体をシャーレに残し、 誰かをさらって感染者にして研
Yeah,
究
that's
しよう
exactly what you want to do.
個人で機材も予算も誰にも顧みられなかった祖父のようにホルマリンの匂いのこもった書斎でもう若さもなく気力もなく
Tomitaki-san once told me that the Idia Institute was supposed to be the Takano Institute, but our clients didn't like the idea of a young woman heading the facility, and that's why I was invited. That explains why she's been unfriendly since the day we met. Must have been blasphemy to her to see me go on about Hinamizawa syndrome and decide on a research plan according to my values and morals. To Takano, the syndrome is her grandfather. She must feel his presence when she's researching it. That's the reason why she often stays at the institute until late at night, though it makes the mountain dogs annoyed, as they serve as security here.
そば湯お飲みになり
いただきましょう
Shoulders look fragile to me for the first time. Now I'm sure of Rika-chan's story. Takano-san holds an indescribable sadness within her. If someone approached her, pretending to understand, she just might fall for it. Because of my position, anything I say to her will only hurt her more, probably. Sometimes words can harm people no matter how they're used. The fact that I still spoke up showed how little experience I had in life.
せめて今後の予算配当を少なくとも3年の継続は勝ち取れたんでその3年間で精一杯の
It was all a slip. Even as I spoke, started to regret trying to say anything.
お気持ちだけで死の病にかかり痩せ衰えていくのを3年も見守るのも辛いものですわよ
If I remembered right, Dr. Takano came down with acute dementia and chose to commit suicide while his mind was still functional out of despair at his inability to continue his research further. My verbal slip had made her remember a painful memory and hurt her even more.
最後には眠ったままになりねえ入江その電源を切るのを所長がそのまさか所長がその電源を切ったりはしませんわよね
Takano-san asked me that as if it was a normal question. She's only expecting to hear one answer.
もしそういう状況最後のスイッチは残されるご家族
ですわよまさか今生の別れの日にその場に立ち会わないわけ私はひなみ沢症候群の絶対にね
Someone knocked on the door and I heard the voice of one of the other staff members.
所長午後の診療準備をお願いいたします
ああ申し訳ない今参ります
私が所長はいつものお年寄りたちが
Takano-san laughed. I know that laugh was trying to conceal her anguish. I'm not close to her personally, but she is my partner here at the clinic. I've been trying to avoid getting close to her, but maybe that was a mistake. If I'd listened to her more, maybe I could have eased her pain a little. But it's too late. Tobitaki-san is conducting an investigation to prove her innocence. Is she guilty or not? Either way, her heartache remains. After Ide left, Takano sat down on the sofa again, stared at nothing for a while. Then she got up and picked up the phone on the desk.
高野ですおこのぎはいる私よ20日からのつもりだったけど今日から R の周辺監視を開始してえ別にいいでしょそれとも今日は暑いから嫌だとでも言うお願い決行日まであと5日慎重に慎重を重ねても罰は当たらないわよろしく
はい失礼しますね
Okanogi put down the phone and sighed. Although it's his job to do whatever Takano wants, he couldn't help but complain about getting such an order on such an extremely hot day. Of course, if he complained, Takano would spit back twice as much reproach. Okanogi was sitting in the office of Okanogi Gardeners, a dummy company. As happened, they regularly did gardening in Yamizawa, if only so that nobody would get suspicious to see their uniforms and van around.
ウグイスとヒバリの休暇を取り消して呼び戻せ R の監視を3日前倒しにしろと監視体制をすべて3日前倒しにする初日は白鷺だったな4名体制通話監視1サポート1 R 宅監視1サポート1白鷺リーダーは直ちに指揮に入れあと電話設備工作もウグイスの予定だったが招集には1日か大鳥でやる大鳥7工作チームを編成して可能か
もちろん電気工作要員の訓練は十分です
Mountain Dogs are different from a regular battle unit. They're a tactical squad formed from specialists in different fields of espionage. There were covert operatives for sabotaging telephone stations like Okanogi just ordered, ones for wiretapping, intelligence gathering, information manipulation, establishing networks in public institutions, and many others in various specialized fields. They belong to the self-defense force. Some are from fire departments, some are from police departments, and some are civil engineers. Of course, they have some experts in combat as well. Okanogi is one of those combat experts, and you didn't expect too much from the engineers. While they had all gone through the same basic training, what they were capable of was child's play compared to what an expert can do. Okanogi is the leader of a unit made up of mostly of members who can't even do 100 push-ups. Really, that was the only complaint he had. He'd rather have been put in charge of the Bloodhounds, but somehow he became the leader of this strange unit, maybe because of his cautious yet courageous personality. Since combat was his expertise, Okanogi wished deeply for combat. During the kidnapping incident 5 years ago, the plan was for the resisting criminals to leave the hostage behind on the scene right after the police stormed in. He recalled the extremely frustrating memory of his combat with that plainclothes officer. Oh. So the one that Akasaka threw hands with on that day was fucking Okanogi? No shit. That fat old man was acting so arrogantly, but he could have taken him within a matter of seconds. He could have just broken his neck. He could have turned him around and snap. It would have been so easy for him. Remembered a young policeman too. Shot him in the shoulder, but he could have shot at his ear. Okay, so Oishi's the one he actually fought, but he shot at Akasaka, gotcha. He was told to go easy on them, so that was the best he could do. He thought of firing a second shot, but there just wasn't time, so the last shot he fired was that reluctant one. Okanogi couldn't believe that such a pathetic battle was his last combat job. That was the last time he saw combat, so he's gonna see Akasaka. Both Akasaka and Oishi are gonna be a part of it, because I know Oishi's gonna come in clutch at some point. Regardless, he had continued to train so that he was ready at any time. After the operation had begun, he was hoping there would be a battle for him to fight. He didn't even need to fire a shot. He didn't even need to punch anyone. All Okanogi wanted was a battle that satisfied his pride. Nothing more. He's also the president of Okanogi Gardeners. Because of that, the members of the Mountain Dogs often call him that.
ちょっと待て、ナマリンボス。つったらねもうしよったねこんなんでどうよ。で、どちら様んね。
女性です。野村と名乗ってます。おこのぎ社長を指名してます。
隊長宛てだ。社長室だと向こうに回してくれ。
I heard a noise which sounded like many buckets crashing down. Probably a noise from one of Satoko-chan's traps. According to her trap map, anyone going near the wiretapping shack will set off a trap that makes a loud noise. That must have been it just now. Scouted around the shack last night before the girls left. The shack is very secluded and is located in a blind spot where nobody's likely to go. So this noise means something important. It means they've started their observation of Rika-chan. Can't let them notice the girls aren't home. I'll definitely call and come by to confirm they're here. So I have to make sure they think the girls are sick in bed and that they don't hear the phone or the doorbell. The curtains are closed so they can't see what's inside of the house. But to be certain, their beds are stuffed to make it look like they're sleeping. However, I have to be even more careful from now on. Can't let them notice that I'm staying here. For that matter, I have to make sure I can act when something happens. The phone rang suddenly. Just as I expected. They're calling to see if anyone's home. They're already aware that they didn't go to school, so they're probably assuming that they're home sick in bed. I'm sure they want proof of that. The phone rang for a long time, which convinced me that it was indeed a call from the Mountain Dogs. If there was no answer on the phone, the next step would be to come by the house. They'll pretend to be a mailman or a neighbor and knock on the door. I don't even need to answer it. If the girls are too sick to answer the phone, then they won't notice a knock on the door either. The increased hassle means a higher risk of discovery, but, on the other hand, also proves our enemies closing in on us. It was actually better for me, since I could measure the severity of the situation. Besides, Ide is our ally, and he already knows Rika-chan is somewhere else. He's supposed to tell them that he came by because he heard Rika-chan and Satoko-chan miss school, and that the two of them were in bed and should be left alone for a while. Supposed to say that. They won't doubt Irie. They will believe him. You could call this an advanced level of mutual deceit. They believe that they're deceiving Irie, but in reality Irie is deceiving them. However, they're professionals, and we're a bunch of amateurs. Well, not me at least. Actually, maybe I'm not an exception. I don't know what they've got until I come face to face with them. Our conditions aren't even. We're leading by a tiny bit because we made the first move. Once that's gone, we don't stand a chance. Promise Rika-chan that I trust her unconditionally. So even without proof, I'm ready to fight. But I can't beat this conspiracy by myself. And to gain help from the others, Tomitaki has to find proof. Tomitaki's in charge of our first attack. That means he's in the most danger, too. It's understandable that Rika-chan kept warning him to be very careful. He should have started his investigation as early as last night. That's the reason why they've begun observing Rika-chan. We only pray for his safety and the success of the investigation. I heard a voice. Irie had arrived.
さとこちゃんにリカさん、ご主人様が会心に来ましたよ。
I heard footsteps coming up from the stairs and a quiet knock.
大丈夫、私一人です。
もう少しここへに。この家はすでに敵の監視下にあります。
I let Irie in and closed the door quickly.
お疲れ様です。窓も満足に開けられないとあっては、これは差し入れです。
He handed me a plastic bag. Contained ice cream, cans of juice, some snacks, and even beer. Well, this obviously isn't for Rika-chan. I feel even he's being a little careless, but I am grateful.
いかがですか？
さっきこの家の電話を、それから呼び出しの長すぎる電話が、おそらく学校を欠席したことを知り、あなたもリカちゃんたちの様子を見てこいと。
高野さんからリカさんたちが学校を欠席、
やはり
リカさんとさとこちゃんの欠席を。
いえ、多分富武さんが内定を開始したことともしなかったとしても、今回の動きは彼にとって尻尾をつかむチャンスになるかもしれません。
どちらにせよ、もう何か。
そう見て間違いない。私たちの敵がそうではないの。どちらにしてももう敵は動き出しているのは間違いありません。
ひなみ沢村連続開始事件、最初の2年は偶然が重なっただけで、しかし3年目から高野さんはそれを面白がり、
綿流しのお祭りは敵が動き始めるタイミングとしては妥当かもしれませんね。そして5年目にリカちゃんを狙った高野か。恐ろしい女です。
リカさんがしていた高野さん、あれは今日初めて知ったんですが、彼女はひなみ沢症候群の第一発見者。
同じ、
彼女にとってひなみ沢症候群の研究を受け継ぐことは、その研究が打ち切られ、それは彼女にとって
全てリカちゃんの言っていた通りということ。
はい、それと高野3年で打ち切られることが決まっている研究、そしてその生命維持装置のスイッチを切るならば、それは残された、
どうせ打ち切られる研究ならば、それに幕を下ろすのは高野先生の遺族。はい、
そういう意味で言ったものと思います。
We're gathering the circumstantial evidence we need. Takana is, in fact, our enemy. Irie had been reluctant to accept it yesterday, but now he believes what Rika-chan said is true.
あとは富武さんに高野さんが企んでいる、そしたら関係者を一斉に拘束するための。
高野は山犬なるそれを鎮圧できるような。
はい、私も名前しか知らないのですが、番犬という部隊がいるそうで、山犬はどちらかというと機密保持などの情報部隊の性格が。
表に出せぬ研究をする機関の万が一の造反に対応する鎮圧部隊となれば、つまりそのいわゆる番犬部隊とやらを
そういうことに。ただ一つ不安なのは、緊急マニュアルには機密保持のために村を封殺することを認める記述。番犬部隊が来てもやることは彼らと同じで、結局は村ごと証拠を隠滅するのではないかという不安。
いえ、敵の狙いが緊急マニュアルの執行にある以上、この陰謀が派閥構想によるものならば、入江機関のクライアントたちの派閥はおそらく敵を吸収し、村人たちが何事かと目を白黒させているうちに決着させてしまうに違いありません。
I know this because I've done similar jobs myself. They'll pass through like a gale and complete their operation swiftly. And you capable of pulling that off against the mountain dogs must be very powerful.
とにかく富武さんからの連絡。
ええ、これは持久戦です。ですが一度有事となれば、それは電撃戦に様変わりする。緩急の差の激しい辛い戦いになります。入江先生は敵の腹中にいる心強い存在ですが、常に油断せずにいてください。私たちはリカちゃんの味方になろうと決めた時点で。
はい。
Phone at this house is, of course, being wiretapped, so Irie is to come over to communicate with me. That won't work in an emergency. Telephone is still better in that case. Those instances, I've put together a memo for Irie. There's a method for communicating over a phone that's been bugged. It's something I came up with out of necessity once.
これは
緊急時用の私への。絶対に敵に奪われないでください。危険な時には必ず飲み込んで処分す。
盗聴されているのに、あなたが受話器を取れば たとえ無言であっても
受話器を取らなくても少々コツのいる不便なやり方ですが、そしてそれは敵の動きを最初に察知できる。
それでやり方は？
メモに書いてあります。簡単に説明すると、電話の呼び出し音の長さで相手に電話をするとき1分以上呼び鈴を鳴らしつつ、それを利用した呼び出し音による連絡方法です。1分半なら緊急事態、直ちに園崎邸へ急行せよ。こんな感じで、他のメッセージはメモを見てください。でもこの1分と1分半の2つだけは私の命がかかっていますので。
Message that lets me know if my life is in danger is the shorter call, but if it's too short, I'll get confused with regular phone calls. That's why to signal me, he's supposed to hang up the phone within 3 seconds first, then place the emergency call. The reason why I use such a large difference of time is to make sure there's no misunderstanding. The tones the caller hears and the rings the receiver sends out are a little different. I don't want that little difference to change the message, which is why they had to be 30 seconds apart.
まず短く1回鳴らし、1分半ならリカさんたちのところへ向かえ。はい。
少々面倒と思いますが、あくまでも緊急事態用ですので。
ええ、わかりました。危険な時の連絡は。
最後に、もうとても嫌な暗号ですが、これも忘れないでください。この連絡に限り、連絡方法は3分以上電話をかけたまま受話器を外し、
その暗号の
連絡員に緊急事態以後連絡不能。
それは私の身に。
はい、緊急時にはこの家へ電話し、そのまま受話器を外し、ただ自らの危機を図るのはまだ大丈夫、多分大丈夫。少しでも嫌な予感がしたら陰謀の度合いから考えて、敵は私たちを生かしはしません。くれぐれもご用心を。
わかりました。その場合あなたはどうするんだ？
その際は状況によりますが、あなたに危機が迫る以上、リカちゃんの身にも私は園崎邸を目指し、あくまでもこれはこのような事態に陥ると決まったわけ。どうか気を楽に持たれてく
ですが、油断せずに。
そうです。
Idiot nodded deeply. It's almost time. Something's about to happen. I'm very excited. I have plenty of questions. This could easily be one of those well-planned pranks, but I heard it's just that extraordinary. Right now, it's a bad idea to ask questions just out of curiosity. That'd be a waste of time. Miona's already explained everything about the events surrounding Rika-chan.
まあ、私も園崎家当主代行連続開始事件についてどうやら少なく、でも今はそれはなしにする。しかし、うちに避難してきたの、うちの地下なら核戦争だってしのげる。電気もある、電話もある、もちろん食料だってあるしね。山犬って連中がそんなにも厄介な相手なら、ますますこの村の中でリカちゃんたちをかくまえるのはうちしかありえないよ。
みんなを巻き込んでしまって申し訳ないと思いますです。
Rika-chan apologized from the bottom of her heart. Rika-chan has been dealing with this strange disease, this Hinamizawa syndrome, as well as these suspicious Tokyo people all by herself until today. She's been trying not to get us involved, and that's why she dealt with them all by herself. You can all imagine what she must have been feeling, so none of us can even think of anything to say. Silence went on for a while, but then Hanyu clapped Rika-chan on the back.
リカは昨
Put those
日から
hands down.
申し訳ないばっかり言い過ぎなのです。もう一回言ったら、リカは毎日僕にシュークリームをおごそれにみんなだって申し訳ないなんて思ってないですよ。ね、ケイイチ。
Hanyu suddenly addressed me. I could tell from her eyes that she was expecting something from me. Right. My role is to act as the flint for the other club members. It's my job to burn strong and bright red to get everyone excited. What have I been doing just sitting around?
そうだぜリカちゃん。ちょいとことがでかかったんで面食らっちまったが。なあ、どいつもこいつも内心は面白くなってきやがったとか思ってんだろ。さとこ、どうもこいつはお前だいぶ温存してるんだろ。シャレじゃ済まない秘蔵のトラップをだいぶ隠し持ってるんだろ。そいつを食らわせてやる。またとないチャンスじゃねえか。
部活メンバーに私がいたことに感謝なさいませです。 ですわね。相手が何様だか存じませんけど、本気でやっていいとなれば、たとえ部活メンバーが相手でも血をためらってきた奇跡の大トラップの数々が惜しげもなく飛び出す。
そうだね。さとこちゃんのトラップはみーちゃんのお墨付きだもんね。たとえ相手が本物の軍隊でも、さとこちゃんのトラップはみんな蹴散らしちゃう。
とさとこをよいしょしてるが、もちろんレナだって容赦ねえから。レナは普段はおっとりしてるが、俺はこいつの本気の時を知ってるぜ。レナは本当に戦うべきここ一番では誰にも屈しない。そいつはかなり半端ない。多分俺でも勝てないと思うぜ。
そんなことな
That
い
is true.
よ。
You can't.
ケイチくんだってここ一番の時の爆発力とレナじゃ打ち破れない運命でも打ち破れる気がするもの。ケイチが赤く燃え上がる炎なら、レナは青く静かに燃え上がる炎という感じなのです。
Okay, no reason to steal Homeboy's line like that. All right, he came up with that one.
お、それいい例えだな。
Damn, that's a good idea. If only I came up with that one.
真っ赤に燃える男、前原圭一。青く燃える女、竜宮レナ。我が部にその人ありと天下に知らしめる。そしてその最強のメンバーを最強のリーダーが従う。だよな。日本にして最強、揃えば無敵。それが俺たちの部なんだよな。
いやはや不謹慎だと思って黙ってたけど、おじさんさ、こいつは最高に面白くなってきたってね。今は感謝してるよ、リカちゃん。これだけの獲物をよくぞ知らせてくれた。このひなみ沢で我が部に挨拶なしで上等を決めてくれようとはね、きっちりけじめを取らせてもらうよ。
It had only been 5 minutes since Sudiki-chan apologized to everyone and brought the mood down, yet our morale was already at its peak again. We're up against such an absurd conspiracy, but if we're together, I think we can defeat it. This is the best feeling ever. Hanya is the one who started all this. She's quite the promising newcomer. She knew exactly whom amongst us to get motivated first. No. Moreover, while even our senior members were hesitant about taking on such a huge opponent somewhere in their hearts, she alone remained unflinching and raised our spirits. She's likely to grow even more formidable in the future.
ありがとうみんな。信じてくれてありがとう。信じてくれるとずっと言ってますし、信じて当然。信じないやつなら仲間じゃないのです。だからお礼なんていらないのですよ、リカ。
ああ、そうだな。羽生の言う通りだ。お前いい根性してるぞ。気に入った。
I rubbed Hanya's head. She laughed as if I was tickling her.
さて、そうとなりゃ作戦会議だ。状況をもう一度整理しよう。まずリカちゃんとサトコは病気結石のふりをしてしばらくここに。これは万が一に備えて。まさかここに2人が隠れてるなんて誰も。留守番をしてくれてる赤坂って人に感謝だね。
でもよかったね。5年も昔にした約束を覚えてて助けに来てくれるなんて。ちょっと羨ましいかも。
私の好みじゃありませんけど、リカにはちょっと嫉妬しましたよ。赤坂は別にそういうわけではないのです。
しかも東京の警視庁の公安部の人で、それも秘密部門所属なんだろ。すげえ頼もしい人だよな。秘密部門ってのがしびれるぜ。
赤坂はきっととても強いと思います。とても頼もしいのですよ。
ただ赤坂さんの役割はどちらかというと緊急時の防御。むしろ重要なのは相手の尻尾をつかむ大任を帯びてる富武さんだよ。彼こそが真の攻撃役。しかも敵を鎮圧できる番犬部隊を呼ぶことができるのは富武さんだけ。つまり富武さんこそがこの戦いに勝利できるキーマンってことなんだよ。
Okay. Okay. If Tomitake is the only one who could call in the Bloodhounds, which is the only way to really counter the Mountain Dogs, it makes sense why Takano takes him out, like, immediately. Okay, that checks out. Mm-hmm.
下手くそカメラマンの富武のおじさまが私たちの命運を握っている超重要人物とは不思議な感じ。
Everyone teased her by saying they're going to tell Tomitake she called him that.
富武の頑張りを期待しないわけではありませんが、万が一に備え。でも羽生、富武に頼る以外に何か打てる手などある？
いや、羽生の言うのも一理あるよ。何しろ敵から見ても富武さんは自分たちを内定していると気づいたら暗殺することだってあるかもしれない。何しろここは彼にとって敵地も同然なんだからね。富武さんだけに頼りきらず、私たちに打てる手を探すのも大切だと思うよ。
そうですわよ。トラップだってたった一つで綺麗に決めるのは難しい。いくつも仕掛けてあらゆる可能性に対処して初めて完璧になるんですのよ。
そうだね。攻撃の手を一つに限る必要なんてない。富武さんとは違う形で他の攻撃ができないか探してみるといいんじゃないかな。でも東京についてわからない私たちがどんな手を。
富武さんの重要性の一つが番犬部隊を呼び寄せることだってんなら、俺たちにも彼らに連絡する方法を教えてもらいたいよな。
I don't think it's that easy. They can just teach you how to call them. Like, probably need like, authorization codes and shit to be and like, I'm sure if Keiichi calls up, they'd be like, you don't sound like Tomitake.
そうすれば、万が一富武さんが敵にやられても、俺たちは勝利条件を失わずに済む。
But yes, if that is possible, having a way to get the bloodhounds is like, that's big.
そうだね。富武さんの最大の価値は同時にそこがこちらのアキレス腱でもある。
True.
事情を話して富武さんに彼らとの連絡の取り方を教えてもらおう。ただ問題なのは富武さん自身が市内に身を隠しちゃってて、こっちから連絡を取る。
でもいい手だと思う。富武と次に連絡を取ることができたら番犬への連絡の仕方を聞きましょうです。まずこれが一案。他にはないでしょうか。
Before we knew it, Hanyu was making sure we moved along with our proceedings. I didn't notice that too, giving a pleasant smile to the girl, trying to be a part of our group.
今の手は富武さんに万一があった時のまた別の角度の攻撃を考えたいな。富武さんの調査に貢献できるような攻撃ってねえか。
面白いですわね。何かのトラップを仕掛けて尻尾をつかみ、黒幕に言い逃れできない証拠を突きつける。最高のトラップシチュエーションでしたよ。奴らの狙いが僕を何かのおとりにするのはどうですか。危険だけど高野たちは僕が目的なんだから食いつかざるをかなり危険な一手だ。でも確かに高野さんがリカちゃんを追っているという大きな証拠をつかめる手だよ。
わざと姿を見せて騒ぎを大きくして逃走戦にする。少しは面白い効果が期待できる。そこで聡子の裏山が役に立つ。
あそこに逃げ込めば追っ手は大変なことになりますですよ。
だよな。こいつは最高の見物だぜ。面白くなってきやがった。
でもやっぱりそれは最後の一手だと思うか。裏山にこもれば籠城戦になって状況はだいぶ変わる。この手に訴えるのは本当に最後。
そうですわね。裏山のトラップは防御効果が非常に高いでしょうけども、敵に対し攻撃するものとは違いますもの。
裏山籠城は追い詰められた最後の切り札に。これは本当に最後のここが敵に襲われ、ここを捨てざるを得ない時だけのね。ちなみにうちの地下には隠しトンネルがあって山中の井戸に抜けられるようになってるんだよ。
へえ、すっげえなミオンの家。やっべえ、ますます面白くなってきたぜ。敵は謎の組織で秘密作戦に秘密基地、秘密の地下道。おお、これで燃えなきゃ男じゃねえぜ。
男でなくても燃えまくりなのですよ。さあこれで2案出ましたです。僕たちはまだまだ思いつきますですよ。もう一案。
そうだな、もう一案欲しいぜ。今の案もどっちかというと防御的な案だからな。もっともっと攻撃性の高い我が部にぴったりの案は出ないのかよ。なんていうのかな、相手にガツンと一撃が入って連中の陰謀が頓挫しちまうくらいのすげえやつだよ。
僕たちにそんな方法があるのでしょうか。
きっとあるよ。レナたちはリカちゃんが思ってるほど無力じゃないし、彼らにとって重要なリカちゃんというキーマンが これが重要な切り札になるんだから、リカちゃんをおとりにするっていう意味じゃなくてね。
確かに女王感染者が私たちのところにいるのは、連中の目的は何？リカちゃんを殺して緊急マニュアルとやらに従って。そうだね。
そうなので、リカは奴らにとって全てを吹き飛ばす爆弾みたいなものなのです。
それを爆発させて大騒ぎを起こし、それを爆発させないのが私たちの勝ちということになると、それはあまりいい状況で。
確かにこちらはいつまでもずっと守り続けなくちゃならないけど、向こうはなりふり構わずリカちゃんを殺せば勝ちになる。まるで片方にしかゴールがないサッカーだよ。
その片方にしかゴールがない異常なサッカーを告発して番犬部隊を呼び寄せるのが奴らの陰謀を砕く私たちのゴールは何かない、あるはずだよ。こういう時は立場を逆にして考えると見えてくる。あれその手があったか。
Mia started to grin in a weird way. Here she goes. The winds are blowing stronger on her side, and she's getting into better than top form. Mion is pretty smart. She's great at analyzing situations. And so when Rika-chan first told her everything, she immediately decided that there was no way for us to win and became depressed. However, while Mion's easily crushed, she's also able to exhibit incredible power when the wind's on her side. We created that tailwind, now her sail is receiving the push it needed.
リカちゃん、もう一度確認するね。その緊急マニュアルってのは、リカちゃんが死ぬと村人が48時間以内に全員発狂するって。
はい、そうなのです。
はあ？どうしてリカが死んだこともないのに48時間でそんなことになるとわかるのでしょうか？確かに、おかしいよそれ。なんで48時間で村人がみんな発狂するなんて決めつけられるんだろう。
僕にはよくわからないのですが、高野が言うには他の国の例でよく似たケースがあり、入江も実はちんぷんかんぷんだと言ってましたです。まさか。私わかりましたわよ。
あ、そうかそうか、そうだよな。
Expound.
これは確かに盲点だったぜ。
Expound.
二人とも僕にはわからないのです。
Yes.
わかんない。レナにもわかんないよ。
あれあれ、レナとリカちゃんはわかんないの？
No.
最後までわかんない方は恥ずかしい罰ゲームってことにしようかね。
Okay, let's not do that.
羽生はどう？あんたならとっくにピンときてそうだね。
はい、だからこそリカは高野にとっても重要人物だったのです。はあ、これはリカとレナへのヒントなのですよ。
What the fuck am I missing here? Is it just what I kind of already guessed? Like this is like a big experiment for her and she can't conduct the experiment without Rika? Because they're like, how do they know? Like, oh, it's something they heard from something else. Irie doesn't understand it, but Takano does. And then everyone goes, oh, I see. Ah, yes. That's why Rika is important to Takano. Like, there clearly is a reason why Rika is so important, because the disaster never happens in chapters 2 and 5 when Rika's body is, dumped in the fucking pit, right? There's a reason for that, because then Takano does not have the body. Takano does not have Rika. Clearly Rika herself is key to preventing the disaster, whatever it may be. Why did I say whatever it may be? I know what the disaster is. The key to prevent Rika's presence is a key to it. But what are they trying to say?
私からもヒントですわよ。敵の狙いはそして そのための手段として緊急マニュアルを使おうとしているわ。ということはこの緊急マニュアルこそ敵の陰謀のアキレス腱になるということですわ。
Right. They need it to achieve their plans, but they can't put it into motion unless they meet all the requirements, which is the death of Rika, right? What are you trying to get at? Like, I feel like I get it, but at the same time, they're acting like they've revealed this, like, grand revelation, and I feel like it's not what I think it is.
わかんないのです。はあ、リカ、僕に今まで意地悪してごめんなさいと謝ったら答えまっぴらごめんよ。
I love when Rika locks into her fucking, like, adult voice. Me, I don't know what it is. Well, if you apologize to me, no fucking way.
そのあうあう気が散るから黙らせて。
なんだなんだ、鋭い。いいか、俺たちの攻撃が富武さん一人に委ねられていて、それがアキレス腱であるように、敵の攻撃も緊急マニュアル一つに委ねられているんだよ。
So our attack depends on Tomitake, but it's also our Achilles heel, because if you take Tomitake away, we can't get the Bloodhounds. So their attack depends on the emergency manual, but it's their Achilles heel, because if you can't enact the emergency manual, it's just the fact. What the fuck is the actual point they're trying to get at? The emergency manual was designed to prevent all the villagers from going insane within 48 hours of your death. Yes. But Rika's never died before, so how do they know the time frame? According to Takano, something similar apparently happened in another country, and that's where the 48 comes from. Irie doesn't get it either. Oh, I know their weak point. What am I missing? Because if the analogy they're now bringing is that Tomitake is to us what the emergency manual is to them, Tomitake is important to giving us a weapon to fight against them, but if something happens to him, we lose our weapon. The emergency manual is their key to taking out doing something to the village, to wiping out the village and creating this scandal. But if you can't enact the emergency manual, you can't cause the scandal. Is that all they're saying? Is that all they're saying? Because I feel like there's something here, like I should be getting something more, but good God, I'm not. Everyone's acting like, oh, I see it. Oh, I see it. Ah, I see it. Their blind spot. What the fuck are they talking about?
ってことは、緊急マニュアルの根底を打ち砕いて、わかるか?
What do you mean if we destroy the... Oh. How the fuck would we prove that? How the fuck would we prove that? If we prove that the village doesn't go insane in 48 hours, it destroys the basis on which the emergency manual is set up. How the fuck do we prove that? What? What? How do we destroy the foundation of the emergency manual? How do we do that? You're saying, so if we just, yeah, if we do something to the emergency manual, then they don't have their weapon, right? Sure. But I feel like you're jumping a step, and like, how do we destroy the foundation? Other than like, if we keep the Queen Carrier away from them, they don't have the grounds to enact it. If it's anything other than that, I'm not seeing what you have in mind.
緊急マニュアルの意味を失わせてやればいいんだよ。
What? We have to make it lose its function? How do you make what? What the fuck are you talking about? Its function is to be a contingency plan if the entire village goes crazy. So what you're saying is that we have to prove that it won't happen. But we can't prove that. We can't prove that. We can't prove that the death of Rika won't cause it. What? How could we possibly disprove that? How could we possibly destroy the foundation on which this emergency manual was drafted? We have to make the emergency manual lose its function. You're fucking making me even more lost. What do you mean, what is the meaning? It's a contingency plan to combat the worst case scenario if the queen carrier were to die. So what is your plan to disprove the existence of a queen carrier? Like, not that that this will happen if the queen carrier dies, but that there is no queen carrier? Is that what you're saying? In which case, once again, how do we disprove that? How do we make that a thing? What are you talking about? Yes. It's supposed to hide the syndrome to make it look like a disaster. Uh-huh. Are you gonna do something to the swamp? Is that your move? We have to do something to the swamp so they can't use 34? Ooh. Mayhaps. Okay, you might be able to get, because the basis on what I see what you're kind of saying with the basis of which it's built on, the basis on which the cover story is built on. Okay, I'm starting to follow somewhat. If we can destroy the cover story that they've built up for this emergency manual, they can't use it, right? So if their cover story they want to go with is that there was this big gas explosion and it wiped out everyone in the village, we have to have a way of tearing that down. Of tearing down the existence of this, or poking holes in their cover story so they can't use that cover story, therefore throwing the whole manual out of whack, because obviously they're not going to follow through with that if it's not going to line up with something they could do. Okay. So I think I get what you're onto. What's your plan, though? Right. So if we prevent them from doing it within 48 hours...
そしてそれが敵の狙いなのです。ということは、僕を殺さなければ、その48時間は
何よ、二人とももう答えをいい？じゃあ答えを教えてあげよう。みんないい？せーの。リカちゃんが48時間前に死んでればいい。
So you're saying our attack is to stage a death? To stage a death, like Takano does with her own corpse, right, during Watanagashi. So we need to fake Rika's death to throw off her... We need to fake Rika's death so that when she plans to activate this thing, we can be like, oh, that was more than 48 hours ago. And clearly, the village hasn't gone crazy. How would you... Okay. How? That's nice on paper. How? Rika has to die 48 hours prior. So they're no, they're not saying. Or we could fake the death, but what they're saying is like they have to delay the manual. That way, by the time they can actually do anything, the time's passed. Oh God, you're making my head hurt. How? We all said it in unison. Boy, we're good at this. We never mess it up. Share with the class! Reina and Rika-chan clapped their hands together. They finally figured it out. Why did it take so long for us to come up with this? Share with the class! Share with the class! Share with the class! And I still haven't thought of it. You're talking about going on the offensive. Sure. Or it could come down to faking Rika's death. If you fake... Okay, alright. Pause. Alright, pause. I'm starting to see the vision, mayhaps. If we can fake Rika's death. Because, like, she's gonna go into hiding, right? She's gonna be, you know, in the basement. So if more than 2 days goes by, and then we can present some sort of evidence to make them think that she died a while back, similar to like what with Takano did with her own body, and we also have a contact on the police force if he's willing to bend the rules for us, mayhaps. He said he wouldn't interfere, but like, I know he's gonna come in clutch at some point. I kind of see the vision. I really want you to expound, though. I really want you to expound. No, don't ow 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 at me. Expow ow wound, alright?
言ってくれるじゃない、羽生。あんたますます気に入ったよ。この功績を認め、あんたには後で我が部金星特別十字章を授与しよう。
Expound!
まあそれは後に置いといて、今は作戦の説
I
明に
swear
入
to
ろ
God, if you cut to black
う。
bars.
奴らのゴールの最大の拠り所である近畿、これにはでっかいウィークポイントが隠されてる。それはひなみ沢症候群は女王感染者の死後48時間で村人が全員発狂するから、そうつまりリカちゃんが48時間前にすでに死んでいるのに村に何も起こらず平和だったら、このマニュアルの根本が崩れるってことなんだよ。
Uh-huh. That's it, to say the least. Nobody really wants to do such a terrifying thing, but if they don't execute the manual, the villagers might go mad and spread to the surrounding communities. They're hesitant to execute it, but they want to keep the damage to a minimum. What if they find Rika-chan's body 48 hours after her death? Okay, yes. I see what you're getting at. Faking that we have to fake her death. Major premise that the villagers will lose their minds within 48 hours of the Queen Carrier's death will collapse.
幸いリカはここに隠れているのですから、リカが死んでしまったという嘘をつくのは可能なのです。
Maybe, but they're gonna want proof.
リカちゃんが世間に目撃されたのは、だからそれから48時間だから、あさっての早朝くらいに死体が見つかったということになるととても好都合だ。
そうか。警察の大石さんの助けがあれば、リカちゃん死亡の偽装は可能なんだね。
その通りです。大石さんにうまくやってもらってリカの死体が見つかり、それが死後48時間経過してるって嘘を発表してもらうんですの。
まあ公式発表にするといろいろ余波がありそうだから、入江機関にだけ嘘を流せば十分だろう。しかも監督がこっちの味方なんだから、連中をコロッと騙すのは可能なはずだ。
Okay, so they want to do it without a body. But that's the thing, Irie is not going to be able to just do that, because then Takano's going to be like, well, where's the body? Because if Irie is the one confirming their death, or no, they're saying, okay, if Oishi contacts the Takano Institute, Irie is not involved, Oishi says, we found the body of Rika Purade, we've confirmed it's her body, and we've confirmed she's been dead for over 48 hours. If the Irie Institute hits them with that, they could do that. That puts Irie in danger, and Irie will have already told them that he went to their shack to do a little examination on the kids, because they didn't go to school. Okay.
これは考えたわね。緊急マニュアルの信憑性が失われれば、こんなひどい作戦が承認されること、つまり連中にとって最大の弱点は緊急マニュアルであり、そしてリカちゃん自身だったというわけなんだよ。
Okay, so they're saying like that's not the move right away. But they're saying if we can hold Rika here, while we take for long enough, then if anything happens to Tomitake, then we have our own thing to fight back. If Tomitake can't bring in the Bloodhounds, well then guess what? You can't execute Rule 34. Yeah, I know what I said.
大石は協力するとまだ言ってくれ。僕はきっと力を貸してくれると信じています。
Oh yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. I know he will.
これは愉快なトラップになりましたよ。高野さんが慌てふためく姿が目に浮かぶようですわ。
高野は私と聡子がでも姿を見たわけじゃなく、きっとそこにいる。それが実は他にいて、そしてあさってに突然私の死体が見つか
なんだかすっごい痛快なことになりそうだね。
It's definitely gonna get exciting, I'll give you that much.
黒幕たちはこの緊急マニュアル作戦が失敗したと判断して撤退するだろうね。
Right. The thing is though, okay, how do you get that news to the masterminds to where Takano won't abuse communications?
ここで私たちの攻守が逆転する。そこまで至ればきっと敵の動揺の隙をついて富武さんが何かをつかむ。
そして陰謀を鎮圧するためにこれが僕たちのゴールなのです。
よっしゃー、見えてきたじゃねえか、俺たちの勝ち方が。
I don't quite smell the victory, but I do smell something cooking in the kitchen. I'll give you that much.
しかも最高に俺たちに
Whoa, easy with the perfect, buddy. There's definitely plenty of other aspects you need to consider, but
気に入った気に入った、最高に気に入った。
I know you're supposed to be the hype guy who keeps everyone amped up, but I feel like you're laying it on a bit thick. This is all gonna work out, I'm sure of it. There's no doubt in my mind. We all encourage each other with a hip hip hooray. It was definitely getting really, really interesting. Sure. Still, what's key is that the claim of Rika-chan being dead for 48 hours is believable. For that, we'll need Oishi-san's help. And right as we thought about asking him, he arrived at the Sonozaki residence. Oishi-san knows that Rika-chan is hiding here. He also knows that some members of the Mountain Dogs have infiltrated the police station. They've even wiretapped Rika-chan's home phone. So the safest way to contact her, he figured, is in person.
先ほど入江先生にお会いしました。赤坂さんはうまいことやってて無事ですと伝えてほしいと言われました。あの人は5年前とは比べ物にならないくらい成長してます。あの砦は彼なら守りを務められるでしょう。
Oishi-san loosened his tie while drinking his barley tea. But he never thought he'd end up drinking a glass of barley tea at the home of his old enemy, the Sonozaki family.
それでこの48時間作戦なのですが、どう思います？
ねえ、なかなか面白い作戦だと敵に対する強力な揺さぶりになるでしょう。おそらく敵は動揺し、焦ってミスを犯すはずです。それは富武さんにとって掴むべき尻尾となるに違いありません。いや、実にうまい作戦ですよ。 3人集まればなんとかって言いますが、若い皆さんがこれだけ集まるといいアイデアも出てくるもんです。
Oishi-san laughed in admiration and assured us that operation would definitely make an impact. However, he hesitated a little too.
こいつは大勝負になります。勝っても負けても私はこの作戦の責任を取らされるでしょう。
True.
うまくごまかすつもりですが、下手をすりゃちょいと覚悟が必要です。
In our 48-hour operation, Oishi-san ends up bearing most of the responsibility. And the police are a strict organization. There's no guarantee they won't investigate. Oishi-san is planning to retire this year. He needs his pension in order to pay off his mortgage. He's at a very delicate point in his life. Well, this is a big deal for Rika-chan. It's a lot to ask of Oishi too. He has to risk throwing away everything for our sakes.
私もこの48時間しかし私ってやつ。
大石、難しければ無理にうなずかなくて、僕たちは大石の犠牲を踏み台にして勝利を勝ち取りたいなんて思ってないのです。
Nobody knew what to say to him, but Hanyu broke the silence. She's full of energy and out-owing during our club, but at times like this, she also has the power to heal the hearts of those who are hesitating and growing weak. It's like being enveloped in a mysterious embrace. If her appearance matched her level of maturity, Hanyu would probably look like a mother.
それに僕たちは最強の部活メンバーなのです。48時間作戦がダメならもっともっと効果的で面白い作戦をすぐに考えね、ミオン。
ああ、そうだよ、大石さん。無理なら断ってくれてむしろ私たちも大石さんの迷惑も考えず勝手に盛り上がっちゃって悪かったと思ってるもん。
そうですわね。困らせてごめんなさいですわ、大石さん。
Rena whispered to me while watching them talk.
羽生ちゃんって結構うまい。年下の子にこんなこと言われちゃったら一肌脱がずにはいられなくなっちゃうもん。
って羽生が慰めてるのってそういう意味があるのかよ。
みー、だって羽生は本当は僕よりずっとタヌキなのですよ。
As Oishi-san moaned and groaned, Hanyu looked over and grinned wickedly at us. I take it back. This girl surely is sly. Hanyu is more dangerous than I thought. Next time we do a club activity, I'll really have to watch out.
ちょっと一晩だけ時間をください。署内で信頼できる人間に打ち明けて協力を求めてみます。大丈夫、絶対に信頼できる。私も引き受けたなら失敗しましたじゃあなので、やる前に賞賛を図らせてください。
Oishi-san never makes promises unless he's sure he can keep them. That's why he speaks cautiously. Considering his position, it was certainly a decision that required courage.
大丈夫ですよ。もし退職金がなくなっちゃってもきっとミオンが何とかしてくれるのですね。
みー、部活メンバーに協力する以上、みー。
まあ、おじさんの家はこう見えてもお金持ちだから。
We've got two sly foxes. Our club's going to be the epitome of a free-for-all in the future. The meeting ends with that. We'll find out if we can go ahead with the 48-hour operation or not by tomorrow, depending on Oishi-san's answer. We haven't even heard from Tomitaka-san yet, but I'm sure he started his investigation on Takano-san. The coach and Akasaka-san have to wait patiently, each surrounded by the enemy. They're both in very dangerous positions, so I'll just have to pray for their safety. And then there's Takano-san. Still having a hard time believing she's involved in such a vast conspiracy. If someone told me the whole thing was a lie, I might even believe them. That's why I want Tomitaka-san to investigate. She's mysterious and a bit cold, but she can be fun to be around too. Also, I've always thought of her as one of the villagers. It hurts me more than a little to suspect one of your own. You can understand what Tomitaka-san is going through. This doesn't have to be an investigation to confirm her guilt. Instead, I want him to prove that she's not guilty. It's too painful for people to doubt one another.
もしもし。ああ、何度もお電話をさせてしまいすみませんでした、富武に。
いえ、それより何か分かりましたか？
Background investigation usually takes a few months. It can't be rushed within a day or two. Tomitake sensed that something huge had started to make its move after what Rika and the others told him. It was definitely getting closer. Once it was close enough to see, it would be too late. That was why he was checking on their progress so frequently.
高野三佐については現在アルファベットの客員に迎えられるときに 別の部署ですでに身辺調査を行う。アルファベット語については今総員体制でもうしばらくお時間を。
分かってます。ですが事態は切迫しつつあるように感じ。
はい、もちろんです。それから富武任意の依頼とは別に本日付で入江機関への緊急内定が命じられ、優先度最大。命令書は幕僚長のです。
幕僚長？私の調査依頼とは別に？
はい、あくまでも別件となっていますが、私の見たところこれは富武任意の調査に対するトップからの協力。
幕僚長が協力？
What does this mean? The only thing I can assume is that the top members of the JGSDF have realized the danger of the conspiracy surrounding the Irie Institute. Like Rika-chan said, if the conspiracy's intent is to execute the emergency manual, then the opposing camp will try to stop that from happening. My request for an investigation is the first step in putting a stop to their plans. So if the masterminds were influencing the chief of staff, he'd probably try to shut my investigation down. But he's supporting it instead, which probably means that the chief of staff isn't my enemy. In fact, he might belong to the opposing camp. Now, it's hard to say if he belongs to them or not. He might just be under order from the ones pulling the strings for the opposing camp. If that's true, then the enemy has already noticed something. It's possible that they'll start exerting pressure soon enough. So how much can I find out before that happens? I don't know much about the top brass. Still, for the chief of staff to get involved, putting aside if Takano-san is guilty or not, I'm certain that something extremely big is starting to happen around the Irie Institute.
入江機関についての調査もまだ分析は終わっていませんが、入江機関内の予算の動きに単なる書類のミスなのか何かの工作なのかは現在腕利きに。
口座に不審とは何です？
はい、入江機関の運営資金用に分配口座があるのはそこの数字がプール金への流出もしくは不明金の流入の可能性があるとのこと。また領収書の日付にも不審な点があり、捏造の疑いが持たれています。
Funds are usually supplied annually. For example, if a budget of 1 million yen is approved, 1 million is supplied in April, and the facility manages those funds so they can keep things running for 1 year. So depending on how they use the money, it's possible to have some left over at the end of the year. If they only use 900,000 yen, they'll have 100,000 left. Then for the following year, they'll be told that as they only need 900,000... No, shit. As they only need 900,000 yen, 900,000 should be enough. Furthermore, there should be 100,000 yen left over, so they should only need 800,000 the following year. Therefore, they only get 800,000 yen when April comes around, which is 200,000 yen less than the previous year. As some of you have already noticed, the more leftover money you have, the fewer funds you receive the next year. Therefore, it's smart to use up your entire budget. Yes, I am aware of that. But some people try to get by until the end of the year. If there is 100,000 yen left, they try to make it look as though they've used up the money, even when it's in fact in a safe somewhere. I see. I see. Is that embezzling funds? I don't know the exact textbook definition of embezzling. But yeah. You're not using up the whole budget. You're saying you did, and keeping the money in your pocket. They report that they've used exactly 1 million yen. They get another 1 million for the following year. If there's still 100,000 yen sitting in a safe, this 100,000 yen is called a pooled fund or a slush fund. If they keep running with only 900,000 yen per year, then 100,000 will be added to the slush fund in the safe annually. Only a handful of people will know about that money. It's how public funds get embezzled, or turned into private money. As we previously mentioned, the Alphabet Project is using this exact trick, and certain masterminds are pulling in huge amounts of public funding. To avoid this kind of situation, there's an audit of accounts performed every year, and oversight to ensure no one's fattening their pockets or creating slush funds. By the way, it's been said that the reason why civil engineering projects tend to start up at the end of the year is so that they won't have 100,000 yen left, but that's not relevant right now. The point is that they have to work hard to get the funds they want. Well, that's an example of having some money left over, which is certainly not bad. However, it can also be possible that there isn't enough money. After all, they're only granted 1 year's worth of funds, so they can't delve into a savings account like we do in our lives. That excess money just doesn't exist. Therefore, an estimate report should never show more expenditure than revenue. If that happens, that means there's some extra money other than what was supplied. That's how slush funds are discovered. Samitaka was told that it was still under investigation, but the Irie Institute's suspicious financial records could be either case. The former would be fine. It's quite common after all. But if it was the latter, there could be something quite nasty lying beneath the surface. In other words, it was quite possible that funding was coming into the Irie Institute from someone other than the formal sponsors. Okay. And that's whoever's been backing Takano recently. To be more exact, there was a chance someone was interfering with the Ide Institute by supplying funds. Yeah. Tomitaka was having his men look into the possibility of Takano and the Mountain Dogs rebelling against Tokyo. It was certainly possible for Takano to do so because of her personal investment in their research project, so to believe that the Mountain Dogs could betray their employers out of sympathy. For the dogs to take part in Takano's conspiracy, a huge amount of money would have to be involved, and thus the discrepancy that Tomitaki's men had identified could be a sign of such.
もう失礼。今、富武には旧小泉派のトップです。近年お亡くなりになって、そのトップと高野三佐の個人的。
一応は。
では、小泉先生と小高野先生に。
いや、なるほど。小泉先生が高野三佐を可愛がっていた。
これは実は小泉先生の死後、彼の隠し行その際、金庫番の弁護士を通さず。小泉先生がご自身で下ろされた額時期は入江機関の設立がアルファベットで承認される。
それは入江機関設立の根回しに小泉先生。い
え、その根回しの金はですからその支出ではないと思われます。腹心の金庫番を素通しして支払うというのはよほどの個人的支出です。
So could that involve the relationship between Koizumi Sensei and Takano-san?
では高野三佐に対し。
はい。こちらでもそう分析しており、現在裏付けを進めています。小泉先生による機関設立の根回しとは別に、高野三佐に対し個人的に設立工作のための
ということはつまり高野三佐は造反工作を行いうる。
高野三佐は機関設立にあたり各方面への調整にあたりましたが、ですので設立工作にあたりその提供を受けた資金を使用していないなら、それは丸々残っている可能性があります。
話が前後しますが、
10億。
Who? Wow.
そんなに
This man's talking about, these businesses getting 1 million in an annual fund. And like, yeah, no, pulled out 1 billion. Yeah, that number you're thinking of, times it by 1,000. Christ. I'm very close to Takano-san, but I had no idea she was so rich. Actually, she's rather tight with her money. Yeah, because all that money, that's for buying out the fucking Mountain Dogs. She never acted as if she had 1 billion yen just sitting around. But then, that money isn't just money to her. It's a form of support from her dear grandfather's friend. So she'd have to save it for when she needed it most. Yep. If the new board of directors had even a little interest in her research, she would have used the money on them, but they simply laughed at her. So Takano-san gave up on bribing them. Instead, she decided to use it now, because her research project was going to be terminated anyway. With 1 billion yen, it might be possible to bribe the Mountain Dogs. If she has sponsors, it'll be even easier. Her grandfather couldn't complete his life's work. She's planning a magnificent conclusion for it. Shit. Those can't be her true intentions. Someone has to be deceiving her. Yes. Takano-san, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't notice your sorrow, even though I've been right beside you. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Preparation for tomorrow's festival is moving right along at the Hurure Shrine. Vans and pickup trucks are bringing in tents and equipment. The village youth group and some middle-aged men are unloading them.
だいぶ具合が大丈夫かいの。今日も学校休んだっちゅう聞いたんね。ああ、リカちゃまの具合はどうですんね。
はい、ちょっとたちの悪い風邪だったよ。ただ、風邪は治り際が肝心です。本人たちにも今日は治ったとはしゃがず。
ああ、そうかそうか。さとこちゃんも一緒に風邪をひいてるん。二人で仲良く風邪だもんで、ついつい遊んじゃうんだろうの。風邪まで一緒とは、リカちゃまとさとこちゃんは本当に仲良しだね。ああ、ちょうどいいところに。入江の先生がね、リカちゃまたち峠は越したって言うてん。
へえ、それはよかった。それで明日の奉納演舞なんだけど、 さすがに無理がねえ。
本人はやると皆さんがやってくれと頼めば、ただ医者の立場としては、たとえ今日熱が下がっていて、
お涼さん、リカちゃまの具合ね、よくはなって。
無理にやらせて祭りの日に倒れられた日にゃ。
いや、村のみんなもまた5年目のただりもあるんじゃないかって。で、北条家の里子ちゃんとリカちゃまだろ。物騒な想像してる連中も。
ほら、リカちゃまおやし。そのリカちゃまがたたりに会うとき、変気でも猫と言うんだ。
いやはや、まったくだよな。
ヒリ先生、二人を見舞うことはでき。
しばらく遠慮して治りかけで遊びたい盛りなんです。外部との接触があると興奮して、また床を抜け出そうとしてしまいますから。
そうかそうか、それな。入江先生、あの二人を頼むな。リカちゃまだけじゃねえ、里子ちゃんも頼むな。
Really? That's surprising. Orio-san always acts as if she doesn't even see Satoko-chan. She just asked me to take care of Satoko-chan too.
もちろんリカさんも、もちろん里子ちゃんもお任せください。
もし間違いがあったら、昭和も50年にもなって、人類が月にまで行っちまうような時代にもなって
思いますね。
ダム戦争の頃は確かにうちら、でもな、いつまでもたたられてばっかりでは。
里子ちゃんが死ぬと、ダム戦争は
村の子が風邪ひいたら心配するのが年寄りの仕事だっちゅうだけやんね。
I already know what Orio-san wants to say. Or to actually say it. But if I made her, she might get angry. This is more than enough. When she talks about the dam conflict, she doesn't just mean the war they waged against the construction itself. She's also including how the Hojo family was ostracized after it was over. She's saying that the dam conflict is over, including everything that happened as a result of it. That's why she told me to take care of Satoko-chan.
里子ちゃんもお見舞いの気持ちを。
あんないたずらぼんずに年寄りの心なんざわらわら。
Orio-san left, laughing. I wasn't the only one watching her leave. Kimiyoshi-san and some of the elders did the same. They all understand what Orio-san wanted to say. Dam conflict is over now.
あの元気な里子ちゃんにも熱を出させるんだから、入江先生、二人をよろしく頼ます。面会謝絶だからしゃあないけど、二人に年寄りがみんな心配してるから。
ええ、二人ともきっと喜ぶと思います。
I vow to myself. Takuno-san is more than likely planning something for tomorrow, taking advantage of people's belief in the curse. I can't let that happen. The curse of Yashiro-sama will end before it can happen for a fifth time. I'm sure of that. But he also doesn't know about the 48-hour plan, does he? Oishi couldn't accomplish the 48-hour operation alone. He would need help from someone else. Okay, you're at the baseball field. Oishi called up both Kumagai and the old man from forensics and told them everything.
重ねて申し上げますが、こいつはヤバい橋になります。融資ならいいですがね、懲戒だったら退職金も吹っ飛びます。
なんだよお前、ヤバい作戦の前にはいつも隣の雀荘に部下を集めてそう脅してるそうじゃないか。いつもと変わらんのう。
そう、いつものようにもっと元気に、退職金が欲しいやつは10数える間に出てってくださいってやってくださいよ。そうじゃないと調子狂うっす。
いや、本当にヤバい話なんですよ、クマちゃん。その覚悟は本当にあるんですか？
試しに10数えてみればいいじゃないですか。なら今日は退職金が欲しいやつは10数える間に退出してください。1、2、3。
わかりま、クマちゃんの覚悟はよーくわかりました。いや、しかし本当にいいんですね。
俺、あ
あの日赤坂さんの武勇伝を聞いてるうちに、やはり刑事になったからには、それに俺もやがては赤坂さんみたいに武勇伝を誇れる男になりたいんですよ。やばい橋、上等じゃないっすか。それに大石さんの提案する作戦で俺たち一度も失敗したことないです。だから俺、その大石さんがいけると思って誘った作戦なら
若いというのはいいの。こいつな、あの日以来赤坂君にだいぶ感化、秘密捜査や秘密事件に関わりたいと息巻いとったんじゃ。
いや若いっていいな。それでじいさま、
わしも乗るぞい。というか、そこまで言われたら
Yeah, right.
会社の研修が今日まで散々。そうそう、この老いぼれが長生きすることもない。
Oh, damn.
なら男に生まれたからには最後くらいでかい花を咲かせたいもんじゃい。
The other two are like, fuck the retirement money, we're gonna do the right thing. And this guy's like, I'm probably gonna die soon, so fuck it, why not? Like, God, alright. I mean, shit, if anything, that means you're more into it. You don't give a fuck about the retirement money. You don't think you're gonna retire.
やれやれ、じいさまもクマちゃんも。だからドラが3つめくれてても強気でリーチ入っちゃうんだよな。
何言ってんすか。男なら降りられない時がある。どうせ切るならど真ん中ってのは大石さんの口癖っすよ。
The fuck kind of saying is that? If you're gonna cut something, you cut it right down the middle. What if that's not the right way to cut it, though? That's a terrible analogy. There's various ways for where you might want to cut something. Like, sure, yeah, if you're cutting wrapping paper, yeah, you want straight cuts. But it's like right down the middle, like define the middle. Like, sure, you roll it out, but what if you cut down the middle, like at the roll and not parallel to it? There's multiple ways that can be interpreted. Like, that's a terrible saying. Like, I get what you're saying. If you're gonna do something, fucking put 110% into it, you know, that classic phrase, something along those lines. You know, if you're gonna fuck, put your whole dick in, something like that. But like, if you're gonna cut in the middle, the fuck kind of, that's a terrible saying.
違いない。
わかりました。お二人の首、私が預からせても。
そうと決まれば、わしの方も今のメンツと機材じゃ急いで知り合いの鑑識の中から多いし、全部終わった後はちょいとでかくおごってもらうぞ。
そこは任せですが、打ち明ける相手にはくれぐれも注意してください。署内にスパイ混じってるそうですから。
わかっとる。わしも伊達に人は見とらん。任せとけ。
よーし、燃えてきたっす。刑事魂本開っすよ。
Oh, God. It'd take another shell night to come to a decision, but those two had decided immediately. Couldn't help but question himself.
では、私はこのままちょいと用事があるんで出かけます。クマちゃんはじいさまを送ってあげてください。今日は非番なのにすいませんでしたね。
何、構わん。久々に男の血がうずいてきよった。これほど腕の鳴る大舞台、わしの人生でもこの年になって初めてじゃわい。ビビるどころか、ここは楽しませてもらうぞい。
ありがとうございます、じいさま、クマちゃん。
I should thank them after seeing them off, although they couldn't hear. I should stop by a flower shop. Bought a bouquet of balloon flowers. Usually the purple ones are the most popular. Oh, she was fond of that color too. But today he didn't buy purple flowers. We got unusual white balloon flowers instead. With the bouquet in hand, he headed to the cemetery across from the flower shop. Oh, the old man. The date was June 18th. The real anniversary would be tomorrow, but as Oishi had to work on Watanagashi every year, he usually commemorated it on the previous day instead. It was the day before the anniversary of the death of the old man. The one Oishi considered a best friend, a brother, and father.
毎年毎年、私は今年こそはおやっさんの右腕を見つけ出すと誓ってますが。
Oishi spoke to the grave. He laid the bouquet of white balloon flowers down on top of it.
ですが、ようやく おやっさんの死の真相に近づく機会を得ました。ただね、それが笑っちゃうんですよ。園崎家は関係ないって言うんです。私は毎年ここにお寮のばあさんを連れてきて土下座させてやるって誓ってきたの。私はすっかり参ってしまいましてね。またおやっさんにげんこつをもらっちまいます。勝手に当たり牌を誤解してベタ折りしまくった挙句にドカンと痛い目に遭う。決めつけないできっちり手を進めてりゃでっかい手がちゃんとできてたかもしれないのにです。私は全然進歩してません。魔女も相変わらずですよ。こんな一度思い込んだら疑うことも知らない頭の固いやつは。
Oishi already had a vague idea. The way Eddie had phrased it, he could already guess. There was no dark secret behind the old man's dismemberment murder. The events that followed were separate incidents. That particular murder was an individual incident, and had nothing to do with anything else. Since the main culprit was the only one who wasn't caught, Oishi needed someone to blame, and the mysterious Sonozaki family was the perfect target. The drama of revenge that Oishi believed in never existed.
私は今やばい橋を渡ろうとしてます。リスクの割に大した見返りはありません。せいぜい私というバカの思い込みを解いてくれるだろう。ですがなんだかやっと私は自分ってやつを許してやれそうな気がします。
Oishi bowed deeply to the grave, and then he heard footsteps behind him. Had to be someone else who knew the old man. That person can't come on the day of Watanagashi every year either, so they come on the day before, just like Oishi does. There's bring blue hydrangeas. Purple balloon flowers and those blue flowers don't go well together. That's the reason why Oishi always picks white ones. Usually the hydrangeas are already there by the time he arrives. But as Oishi had his secret meeting with Kumagai early in the morning, he came straight to the graveyard afterward and arrived before this person did. Visiting a grave isn't a race. It's a spiritual matter. Oishi was curious about the other person who brings flowers every year, so he looked up.
これは皆さんもどなたかのお墓参りですかな？
Shion. I was gonna kind of ask, man, Shion's been real absent from this episode thus far. She has had no appearances whatsoever. She's not in on anything. Oh, she stated the obvious, but from one glance he could guess everything. Upon seeing the hydrangeas in her arms, it all made sense.
おやおや、あんた勤務中じゃないのか？悪いお人だね、まったく。
Akane Sonozaki laughed as she handed a bouquet of hydrangeas to her daughter, Shion. Shion, not knowing what to do, was caught between her mother and Oishi.
ほら、いつまでそこをどき。
Oishi moved over as told and spoke.
まさかあんたが毎年
綺麗だろ？うちの庭のやつなのさ。やっぱり6月はアジサイさね。あんたの気境も珍しいね。白いのもある。それも涼しそうで良さげ。
ああ、大石のおじさま、お花いけますんで、お邪魔します。
Shion knelt down in front of the grave and got the flowers ready. She put the hydrangeas in the vase alongside the balloon flowers. Flowers looked beautiful in the vase together, reminding their onlookers that summer was about to start.
空前にしちゃいい鳥。白に青によく引き立て。
毎年私が青い花じゃ相性が悪いと思いまして。
なんだ。なら私たち。
そうですね。
どうしたんです？レントゲンに妙なもんでも映っ。なんか今日は嫌に神妙で気持ち悪いですね。
あと、うちの組の店にツケが残ってるだろ。そいつの請求書を備
え。やれやれ。親子揃って口の減らない一家です。あいにくまだ当分お迎えは来ないみたい。定年までもうラストスパートですが、まだまだ行きますよ。
なら結構。沖宮の一市民としては公僕の頼もしい一言。
The conversation should have been coded in social courtesies, yet something felt a little off about it.
しかし、死守同盟と現場監督のおやっさんは犬猿の仲だったはず。その二人が
そりゃ犬、猿さね。私たちは敵同士。
そう。こんにゃろうはとにかくムカつくじじいでしたからね。噛みついてやったし、溝落ちに肘をくれてやったし、あと車のボディを10円玉で削ってやったり。
The statute of limitations isn't up yet. Shion stuck out her tongue and hid behind her mother in embarrassment.
それだけ仲の悪かったシオンさん。
てかダム戦争はもう終わりましたし、まあその敵とはいえいろいろシャレにならないこともしましたしね。
なんだい、納得。終わった戦争さね。ラグビーだって終わったらノーサイド、敵味方なしなんだろ。そういうことさ。
Akane said it as though it was the most normal thing, but she just couldn't understand. First of all, they hated each other. They hated each other. They spat at each other. They even feel like bringing flowers to his gravesite. However, Akane said that it was normal. Their moral standards weren't matching up.
私にはあんたの方が、私の中ではダム戦争は終わったことになってんだ。
まさかちゃんと終わってますよ。あの創造しいスピーカーが未だ頭の中から鳴りやまないなんて。
なら園崎家が墓参りしてもほら、どきなどきな。私もお供えを持ってきたんだから。
Akane took out a small package from her bag and put it down in front of the grave.
その包み、毎年見かけてましたが。
鬼ババ特製のおはぎ。酒飲みは甘いのは苦手だろうからって砂糖抜きだそうですが。
お寮のばあさんがダム監督の命日のためにおはぎを握った。
毎年握って備え。あんた毎年見てるって今言ったでしょうが。
Oishi was stunned. Oreo was the biggest hardliner in the Onagahuchi Guardians, no question about that. Oishi had believed for a long time that she was the mastermind behind the old man's murder. Because of that, he just couldn't believe that she had been making ohagi every year for his anniversary.
そんな顔しなさんな。もうさ、そういうのはおしまいにしようじゃないか。
そういうの。
園崎家がダムの監督の墓前に花を供えちゃいけないとか。もう昭和も60年になろってんだ。下手すりゃ数年もしないうちにそんな時代にまで。あんたは終わっちまった戦争をずるずる引きずりたいってのか。
ご冗談。もうあんな戦争はごめんです。平和が一番ですよ。
国にも悪いところが、反省が必要だね。でも私たちにも悪いところがある。だから私たちは反省。そしてそれはそれでおしまいになったなら、古い時代を片付けて新しい時代を作るのが不幸な事件があって、この御人は死んじまったけど、もし生きてたなら私は一緒に酒を飲んで。でも死んじまだから、この御人とはもう悲しいことさ。
それが死別というもんですからね。
でも
そうですね。あんたらも生きてます
なら、あんたともいつか。
さーてどうでしょうね。
こいつを住職さんに。その後は表に車を回してきておくれ。
Akane took out an envelope from her pocket and gave it to Shion. Shion took the envelope, bade Oishi, and then ran off.
ダム戦争の時は小生意気なお嬢さんだと思って、いつの間にか成長されたもんです。
ダム戦争から何年経ってると思ってんだい。いつまでも戦争状態じゃん。それだけの時間が経ってるんだ。
それだけの時間が経ったんですね。時間は若者ほど濃密で、年寄りほど希薄になる。
変わらないのは年寄りだけす。でも時代と若者は絶えず成長。そしてぼんやりしてる間に、で私たちは隠居して若者を見守るのさ。
おつなもんですな。あの獅子骨の鬼姫園崎茜にいつの間にか説教をされるようになったんだ。
嫌だね、そんな通りな。まだ覚えてるのかい今じゃ獅子骨のレディーで通ってるんだよ。
レディー。
そいつは内緒にしてくれるとありがたいね。
ダム戦争も終わったんですしね。
そうさ、もう終わったことなのさ。
Two of them watched Shion and the priest exchange words in front of the main temple building. Both were silent, but the air between them was comforting. There was no breeze, and a cabbage-white butterfly flitted around them.
勤務中だろうけどさ、どうだい一つひんやり練習でも行かないかい？
今日は遠慮しましょう。私も車ですし。
そりゃ残念だ。またの機会にしようか。
そうです。またの機会にしましょう。
Something that had been sitting inside of Oishi for a long time had started to dissipate. Something that had coagulated was melting away.
そろそろ戻ります。あなたもお嬢さんを待たせているでしょ。
そうさね。あんたとはいろいろあった気が。これで一度パーッとチャラにしちゃいたいね。
そのあたりの生産会はまた後日に改めてやりましょう。いずれきっと。
Akane turned around with a big smile on her face. All of a sudden, it changed into an impish grin.
それでね、私たちの和田か昨日反則切符もらっちゃったんだけど、これもパーッと中。
ああ、そいつは最寄りの警察、私に声をかけてくれりゃ。
チェ、サービスの悪い人だよ。
Their laughter echoed under the blue sky. Okay. Okay.
「お待たせしましたわ、野村さん。いえいえ、失礼しました。
At the moment, I'm talking to a woman over the phone.
その後のお加減はいかがですか？
ええ、明日が祭りになります。
そうですか。それはよく。
明日の夜、富武兄はすべて廃棄したはずの H173 が投与された痕跡を残し、どういう形であれ哀れな最後を遂げるでしょ
それはとてもこちらではすでに議事録の捏造が終了しています。入江二佐が研究継続を求めて他国に研究を売り渡そうとして独走し始める痕跡です。
う。富武殺しは
そうです。理事会に対し入江機関への疑問を抱かせる最初の布石になそのあたりの工作は全てこちらが受け持ちま
それからその例の件ですが、
もしもの
富武兄が買収に富
武兄の買収は
もしこっちの味方になってくれれば。
こちらの分析では今回の作戦に富武兄がね作戦に不安要素をわざわざ加味する必要はない。
おっしゃる通りです。失礼しました。何かに使えるかと思ったもので当初の予定通りに行きます。
それがよろしいでしょう。それではまた連絡します。失礼します。
For a while, I kept holding the telephone receiver, lost in thought. Then I put it down and dialed a number that I had become very familiar with.
はい、エコノミーホテル沖宮でございます。
Uh-oh, she's gonna find out that he's in a different hotel.
406号室、富武をお願いし、高野とお伝えください。
はい、今お取り次ぎしますので少々お待ちください。
The telephone operator put me on hold, leaving behind only electronic music. Waited for about a minute and the operator came back on again.
申し訳ござ406号室のお客様はお電話があった旨ご伝言いたしましょうか。
もう何度も伝言を頼んでるから結構です。富武さんはいつ外出し、いつ頃戻るかわかりますか？
それにつきましては。
わかりました。またかけます。
Oh, she's been calling. I see. So he probably didn't like cancel his hotel room. He probably has it there. So he probably still has his reservation there so that when she calls, they're not like, oh, there's no Tomitake in that room. But they call, he doesn't answer. Gotcha. Meanwhile, he's at a different hotel conducting his investigation. I put down the phone before the operator finished speaking. This is the third time I've tried calling him. I left a message telling him to call me back, but he hasn't. Why? Is he out taking photographs by himself? Or is he waiting for me behind the shrine where we usually meet? Who would think I would actually come all the way here, expecting him to be waiting for me? I'm even surprised myself. People are in the middle of setting up tomorrow's festival. Tents are being put up for food stalls, and preparations for various events are taking place. It's almost too noisy for me, what with people shouting as they work, plus the noise from the batteries for the stalls. Soon I reached the back of the shrine before realizing it. This is probably the best view in the whole village. This is where Jiro-san and I usually meet. Just maybe he's waiting for me there. Of course, it's just wishful thinking. God will never grant my wishes. He only has a bit of fun by testing me. I look down at the village below, letting the breeze blow through my hair. He usually follows me around while he stays in Hinamizawa. He persistently asks if I want to go out to eat, go for a walk, or take some photographs with him. He hasn't done any of that this visit. His behavior towards me has changed. Maybe it's because he heard about the horrible impression I left with the new board of directors. Maybe he thinks I'm a mad scientist because of that incident. I can feel that he's gradually losing interest in me. I had my own complaints too. I don't want him around, he's so persistent. But when I need him to listen to me, I can't get a hold of him. But if I did get through to him, what would I even talk about? What could I talk to him about? Right after talking to someone about the plan to assassinate him. Why should he even answer my call? I'm simply running wildly. When I reach the point of no return, I'll want to be forgiven. And I want him to do that for me. Just because he always does whatever I want him to do, and he shows up whenever I need him. Who would forgive someone like me? Someone who has nowhere to go but hell. Would he forgive me? Out of sympathy? No way. While he'll be surprised, he'll do his job and arrest me. I am a member of the SDF after all, so what I'm doing is committing treason. I've been thinking about him a lot for the past few days. Just now I realized something. He's not attractive at all as a man. He has no sense of humor or good taste. He has nothing. Absolutely nothing. Well, he has a belly. There's nothing appealing about him. He doesn't care about my schedule. He's persistent. When I treat him nicely because I'm in a good mood, he becomes even more persistent. There really is absolutely nothing good about him. Despite his age, he tells me things like how the last time he held a woman's hand was when he did folk dancing at some summer camp. Furthermore, he says those things to make me laugh. He's hopeless. But more than anything, I can't stand when he completely ignores my feelings. I want to be alone sometimes. I don't want to do anything sometimes. He drags me out, completely ignoring how I feel. That's why, even when I'm exhausted or I don't feel like doing anything, I end up going with him, which makes me laugh. I always thought that just wore me out, yet I want him to drag me around. Probably never feel this way again. And yet, he's not here. Do I really believe I don't want to spend time with him? Maybe I've just grown used to his abundant affection. When he took me out on a day I didn't want to do anything, I was in a bad mood at first, but after a while, I started to feel better and found myself having a lot of fun. If he was with me now, would he take me out to photograph birds like always? Would he happily explain it all with his know-how, even though I didn't ask? That'd be very boring and troublesome, but that's what I honestly want right now. Do I see my grandpa in him? I loved my grandpa. He gave me a purpose to live. I needed him. I loved Uncle Koizumi. He helped me with my dream. I needed him. After both of them died, maybe I just sought their aspects in him. Am I starving for a protector? Maybe I'm so traumatized by my parents' accident that I need to have someone nearby to watch over me all the time. Maybe I'm still immature. My inner child is throwing a fit because she can't put together a toy, saying that it's going to be broken anyway, she's going to break it herself. It won't just be my problem. It'll bring about huge, irreversible tragedy. But that's the only way to prove the truth of my grandfather's work. That belief allowed me to prepare up to this point. In just a few days, the top members of the government will be scrutinizing my grandfather's article. And terrified by the worst-case scenario he predicted, they'll regret canceling our research and neglecting countermeasures as they pass their final resolution. That's when my grandfather's article will become truth, his great work uplifted, and his name carved into the pages of history. And then he will become a god, an eternal existence. And I will reveal the god worshipped as Yashiro-sama to be the Hinamizawa syndrome, casting them down to earth. I'm going to complete the 5th curse of Yashiro-sama with Jiro-san's death, as well as my own. I'll become the one who curses, not the one who's cursed. I'll be in the position to test instead of being tested. I will ascend to godhood. I'm going to make the curse a reality, and I'm going to kick the god of this place off her throne. And then, grandfather and I will be together forever. Gods don't get tested. Fate doesn't test gods. No grief will separate us. I will be with my grandpa forever. After that, we're going to work on our research together in that study, filled with the smell of formalin. A scene from Happier Days. Grandpa's at his desk writing down something. I'm in a good mood, lying on my stomach on the carpet right behind him, while flapping my legs and humming a tune. I help him with his research by organizing his books as if I were playing with blocks. To return to those times is my only wish. Of course, if I could go back that far, I'd want my parents to be alive too. If I could play with my grandpa's books, while listening to my mother cooking in the kitchen, my father flipping through the newspaper, that would complete my happy world. It would be my ideal childhood. But that world doesn't have a door to the outside world, so I can't go over to my friend's house, because if I did go to my friend's house, there wouldn't be anybody there when I returned. Nobody. Because they'd all have died in a train accident. So I don't want an outside world. want to stay in my house with my parents and my grandfather. I am a doctor, after all. I can analyze myself. I know what I'm wishing for is proof of my own immaturity. But if I know that much, then why do I still long for a parental figure in Jiro-san? Even as I plan an operation which includes his death, I'm still praying to hang on to him. Praying? Trying. Why did I read that as praying? Jesus. If I'm going to betray people so I can become a god, then I should remain a villain until my final moments. But if I'd rather be a lonely little girl, then I should remain modest and humble until my final moments. Either way, if it's my way of life, nobody can criticize me for it. Because if I believe it is right, then all I can do is go on without listening to such criticism. But I still can't decide, so I want somebody to criticize me. Nobody has ever criticized my way of life. That's why I want to hear someone do it. I want someone to tell me my way of life is wrong. I want Jiro-san to tell me I've done such a stupid thing. I want him to slap me. Such masochistic desires speak a great deal as to how I'm rejecting my present self. Am I really still longing for a parent? I'm too old to call myself immature. Even if I do, nobody else will. No matter how immature I am inside, people will treat me as a grown person. They'll say I possess an adult's responsibility and proper judgment, and that they've brought me this far already. Then I'll be judged before the devil. Will I still plead to judge my immature self as a grown-up? Am I going to act that pathetically even in front of the devil? I'm already going to hell, yet I can't completely become a devil. I hate the idea of hell, yet I refuse to try and repent. My mind can only float in a lake of blood, drifting as I drowned. If only Jiro-san was here. My mind would clear up as I played along with his insensitive chatter. Why isn't he around when I need him the most? This is the last chance I'll have to spend with him. I hate how immature I am, becoming so insecure just because he isn't around. I found myself before the offertory box. I came here when the Irie Clinic's construction had ended and the research at the Irie Institute was about to begin. I remember how bravely I challenged the god of this place. I was full of hope and ambition. After going through many hardships, I finally came this far. I even vowed I would become a god. I did so in front of the god of this place. I can vaguely recall my grandfather telling me a story similar to that. That's right. It was the story of the Tower of Babel. When there was only one language in this world, all people lived in one place with one will. In a display of their authority, they started to build a tower that would reach heaven. God got angry because these people had forgotten how to show respect to him. He believed all of man gathered to commit such an affront because they all shared one language and one will. So their communion was shattered. People were thrown into disorder, and they were given many different languages so they wouldn't be able to communicate with each other. And as they couldn't communicate with each other, many left, and the tower which challenged heaven fell to ruin. Something like that, anyway. I'm not sure what the lesson is. But this is what my grandfather explained to me. Building a tower that reaches up to heaven is the greatest challenge for humans, but it is also a challenge to God. To challenge God was truly sinful, but as humans, we couldn't help but test that untrodden peak. It's not easy to build a tower that's high enough to reach heaven. While they're building the tower, the people will fall into disharmony and lose the mutual understanding they once started with, their united wills thrown into disarray. This applies not just to a group of people, but can be said about one person as well. No matter how solid their will, the closer they come to heaven, the more limits God imposes on man. So even iron wills are sure to waver at some point. It's just too arrogant for humans to think they can always carry out their original intentions. That must have been what my grandfather was thinking deep down. I'm sure he lost hope many times since nobody ever recognized the value of his research. Yet he believed in himself, and he believed that someday his work would be appreciated. Maybe that was his wish, rather than reaching heaven. Grandfather realized he wouldn't be able to complete his research, and maybe he was trying to find where he could compromise. Humans can't build a tower that reaches heaven, but the story of the Tower of Babel is still around. It didn't reach heaven, but we still tell the story of the tower that challenged God. According to the story, the tower was left behind with nobody to work on it. The incomplete tower stayed in that place for a long time, never achieving its goal. But if someone were to see it, they would realize how great it was that someone accepted that challenge and praised their name. I took over the tower from my grandfather and tried to make it reach heaven, but I ended up succumbing to the same fate. If it is going to be destroyed anyway, I will try to destroy it myself. What am I doing? Anyway, if I hadn't tried to if I hadn't tried to continue grandfather's research, his work on Hinamizawa syndrome would have remained forever. Even if it was an empty tower that nobody ever visited, if somebody did come by, they would praise whoever attempted that challenge. they would have praised my grandfather. But I took over his work, and I built the tower even closer to heaven, which made God angry. And now the tower is going to be destroyed. The tower will become a pile of rubble. When the Ide Institute is shut down, all of its records will be destroyed. My grandfather's wish for his work to be appreciated by someone will never be granted. I tried to make my grandfather an eternal existence. It ended up making that an impossibility. How can I call myself Mio Takano? Instead of inheriting the 1, 2, 3 from my grandfather and continuing the count to 3, 4, I reduced it all to 0. If it wasn't for me, my grandfather's work would have remained in an empty tower. It would have stayed in this world forever. But I ruined it. I did that. I can feel myself sweating. The sweat reminds me that I've done something inexorable. Where did I make a mistake? Where did I go wrong? It wasn't when I came here. It was before that. I started to walk down the wrong path long before that. If I put myself in my grandfather's spot, I know. My grandfather's working on a great challenge. He built a mighty tower, and he was supposed to continue to stand there and wait for someone to appreciate it. Grandfather definitely said he wanted his work to be valued by someone, even after his death. But I misunderstood. Somewhere along the way, I made a wrong turn. I misinterpreted grandfather's wish, and I ruined it. I ruined everything. I tried to make him an eternal existence, yet I destroyed him. Grandfather built an eternal tower, yet I raised it. Where did I make a mistake? What went wrong? It's obvious. My grandfather counted to 3, and with that, it was complete. I simply tried to do more with addition, and everything collapsed, and now all of it is ruined. I shouldn't have tried to count to 4. I shouldn't have done anything. Besides, grandfather didn't even ask me to continue his research. A little girl shouldn't play in this dark study. Go outside and play with your friends. I remember my grandfather telling me things like that, but I refused, and I stayed in the study so I could help him. And eventually, he stopped telling me to play outside and just enjoyed having my company while he worked. But when we first met, he used to say things like that. Then what? Living with Grandpa was the first mistake I made? Then what? When I escaped the orphanage, I shouldn't have called Grandpa? I shouldn't have found a 10-yen coin? I shouldn't have asked Grandpa to help me? Ah, now I remember. I know where I belong. The noise of something metal striking something else is getting closer. It's getting closer and closer. I'm not allowed to fall asleep. I wasn't asleep, I just had my eyes closed, that's all. Sorry. Don't kick. I'm afraid of the metal sound. Please don't kick it. I'm not being kicked, but the noise is kicking me. So please don't kick. Please don't kick the metal fence, please. My body's getting cracked. I think my body's getting cracked. All the dirty, itchy, and painful things soak into those cracks, and the filth and prickling feel horrible. It's soaking into my chest, gathering together. I desperately try to resist so that it won't touch my heart, but the dirtiness and itching draw together more and more. My whole chest is soaked, and soon enough my face will be swallowed. Even drowning in this dirtiness and itching, I try desperately to hold my breath, so at least my heart won't be soaked with it. I can't hold my breath any longer. I drown in an ocean of muck, and yet, as I'm taking on the muck, my heart desperately struggles not to be tainted by it, to rise above it until my heart too sinks into the sea of grime. Only creatures that have lived on land will gasp and suffer the pain of drowning as they long to return to dry land. Creatures that have always lived in the ocean never drown. That's not true. Grandpa won't come help me. That is the best thing for me and him both. I am... See? When I stop struggling, there is no more noise. I don't have to hear that scary metal noise. Is it a roar or a yell? I need to borrow strength to scream in order to come back to the present world. My body's all sweaty. It feels dirty, itchy, and painful. It reminds me of that day. I feel welts coming on as the sweat crawls down my skin. No, it's just a delusion. It can't be itchy, because all of that is long over. I take a bath every day. I scrub my body until it turns raw and red, so not even the slightest drop of that horrible filth could possibly remain. I Can't help it. I remember the filth. I can only get rid of it by scratching my arm so hard it leaves marks. I can't get rid of the itching. I can't get rid of the filth. Of course I can't. I'm a filthy existence. Grandpa should never have saved someone like me. Meeting me made him happy. I shouldn't have existed. I shouldn't have been born. I should have stayed inside that metal fence and spent my whole life there. I needed to go back inside it. I should have never left. That place is where I belong. Corner me with that horrible metal noise. Crush me with that filth, itchiness, and pain. And then kill me. So that I'll never meet Grandpa. Is that your wish? Yes. Much like those left behind at the top of Babel's crumbling tower, or Icarus, unable to reach heaven only to fall. That is my final wish. Bring me back inside that metal fence, and give me back to the fate that's suitable for my filthy existence. The wish of a liar will never come true. But I'm not a liar. You have spoken your true wish once, but you have yet to realize that's your greatest wish. And I cannot grant that wish just yet. Are you saying that's the punishment we sinful humans face for challenging God? You should already know. The strength of your desire is what creates the future. You lack that strength. Are you saying I haven't tainted myself enough? Will even the gates of hell remain shut for someone not fully committed like me? How you doing,
リカ
Akusaka?
さん、さとこちゃん、容体はいかがですか？私です。入江です。
As Akusaka warned me, I have to be careful. Akusaka opened the door silently.
お疲れ様です。外は賑やかですね。
明日のお祭りの準備で、これは模擬店部会さんからお見舞いにと持たされた。せっかくなので。
これはありがたい。いただきましょう。
Akusaka-san is wearing a t-shirt, but he's still drenched in sweat. All the windows have been shut and he can't even open the curtains, so it's very hot inside. But even accounting for that, he's still sweating like mad.
すごい汗です。確かにこの暑さでは無理もありません。
いえ、トレーニングを少ししていた。ドタバタするわけにはいきませんので、有事があるなしに関わらず、体は常に臨戦態勢にしておかなければ。
適度な運動は気分転換にもいいですからね。このようなところでずっと緊張を強いられていては、精神的にも参ってしまうでしょうに。
いえ、慣れてますから。でも、先生の差し入れはとても助かります。
Akusaka-san smiled like a happy child as he ate the strawberry-flavored shaved ice.
何か動きはあります？富武さんから連絡は？
いえ、まだ何も動き。あ、高野さんが富武さんと連絡がつかない。
身の安全のために感づかれたのでしょうか？
いえ、そういう不信感を持って、私も写真撮影に飛び回っているのでは。
怪しまれるのも時間の問題ですね。風向きはどちらにせよ、近いうちに強い風が吹きそうです。入江先生、くれぐれもご用心を。
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If they enact the 48-hour plan, right? If they put that into motion, that puts Idiot at a lot of fucking risk because he's been going from a lot of different angles because he's been, claiming to go to this building and say that, oh yeah, Rika and Satoko are totally fine. So then if Oishi comes out and is like, yeah, we found Rika's body, he's been dead for over 48 hours. Then people, Takano and the Institute and, Tokyo and all that are gonna look at him and be like, so you've been lying to us. And then the village is gonna look at Irie and be like, oh, you've been lying to us. Because obviously he's been lying to everyone. So, Irie is definitely in a rough fucking spot. That is for sure.
もちろんですよ。
Unless Tomitake can swoop in at the right moment with the bloodhounds and save Irie's ass, he's gonna have it fucking rough.
ああ、そうだ。先ほど大石さんにお会いし、こんな話が進んでいるので伝えてほしいと頼まれました。
Okay, so Irie knows about the 48-hour operation. I mean, that's good, so he's not blindsided by it, but what's your plan then, Irie? I explained the 48-hour operation to Akasaka-san. Akasaka-san seemed impressed with the notion, especially because I told him it came from the girls. And Keiichi. And Keiichi. You'll remember that Keiichi was one of the first to be like, oh, I see. It was Reina and Rika who were like, I don't get it. Let's give my boy Keiichi some credit.
うまい手ですね。連中に相当の揺さぶりをかけ、そのうろたえぶりから富武さんが敵の尻尾をつかめる可能性は。で、その作戦の指導。
それは今夜、大石さんと皆さん、やはり時間はかけられないということで、早ければ。
そうですね。長い時間臨戦態勢でいるのは、撃てる手があるなら、早いうちの方がいい。
赤坂さんがひなみ沢に滞在できるいつまでなんですか？
家内には一応、日曜日の深夜には帰ると言いましたが、幸恵も刑事の妻です。分かってくれると思います。
ここでは奥さんに電話をすることもできませんね。それは辛い役を押し付けてしまったものです。
大丈夫です。新婚時代じゃあるまいし、毎晩電話しなきゃ見下り班ってわけじゃありません。
Although he says that, it's easy to tell that Akasaka-san wants to hear the sound of her voice.
赤坂さんの方では何か必要なものがあれば持ってきますので。
必要なものは特に。変化は何しろ祭りの準備でこれだけの出入りがありますからね。その中に不審な気配が混じり込んでいても、むしろ逆にこの人混みの中にここを監視する敵も混じり込んでいると思って警戒するくらいが。
そうですね。そうそう、山犬ですが、やはり赤坂さんがおっしゃったように、お好みさんに予定を聞いたところ、5年目のたたりに便乗した愉快犯がリカちゃんを狙う可能性を考慮して、祭りの前後に警護体制のレベルを上げた。
現在の状況と一致。まるで明日の祭りに合わせて表も裏も全ての準備。
明日はとおっしゃるわけですね。
The 48-hour operation gets underway tomorrow morning. It'll be quite the turbulent day. Yes, everything will change, starting tomorrow, June 19th, 1983. A tempestuous day that divides a peaceful world from a tragic one. The fate of the world will change on that day. I finished my secret meeting with Akasaka-san and left while calling up to the second floor window, pretending to address the girls. When some villagers saw me do that, they asked how they were doing. They asked me about both girls, which made me very happy. What Oryo-san said yesterday has already spread among the villagers. In other words, the curse of Yasho-sama may have already been lifted, even before tomorrow's festival. If nothing happens tomorrow, this village is finally free from the curse and the ghost of the dam conflict. As we prepare for the upcoming battle, I realize the extent of the responsibility we've taken on. Yet, have you realized what you're going to be dealing with, Big Dog? When they announced that Rika's been dead for 48 hours, despite you telling everyone that you've been checking in on them, you come back to Takano and be like, yeah, I've been checking in on them. You talk to Oreo and you're like, yeah, I've been checking in on them. Do you realize your own responsibility in all this? What are you gonna do, my man? What's your move? At the same time, that gives me extra strength. Okay. After greeting officials under the main tent, I ran to Takano-san as I head back to the clinic. It's unusual for her to be here alone. If Tomitaka-san was with her, I could understand, but she'd never come here by herself. For a moment, I thought maybe she suspected a connection between me and Akasaka-san, but it doesn't seem that way. I'm relieved.
珍しいです。こんなところでどうされたのですか？
いいえ、ちょっとした気まぐ。
そうですか。今日は気持ちいい風が、散歩も気持ちがいいと思いますよ。
二郎さんもそんな風に誘われて一人で散歩に行っているのかしら。
Those words had a strange nuance to them. Takano-san normally only spends time with Tomitaka-san out of politeness. At least that's how she's been acting. So when I heard her say that, I was a little surprised.
そうかもし。彼は東京の人ですからね。ひなみ沢の自然や空気はとても貴重なものだとわかるのでしょう。
所長、二郎さん、どこに行かれてるか。
いえ、存じません。はて。
昨べの会合にも欠席して、他のスタッフが進行してくれたからいいですけど。職務怠慢でしてよ。
This is going in the wrong direction. I have to change the subject.
まあ、彼にもあるんですよ。一人になりたいあなたと同じにね。
そうですわね。私ったら。
I think that went well. Shouldn't ask about Tomitaka-san after that. When I look around, I can imagine how lavish the festival is going to be tomorrow. Watanagashi is the biggest festival of the year around here. It's grown in scale ever since the dam conflict ended, and this year the village festival is hitting a peak. I'm sure villagers of all ages will enjoy themselves tomorrow. Takano-san and I overlooked that heartwarming scene.
明日は楽しいお祭り。
ええ、楽しい祭りになりますわね。
The conversation was very ironic. We both meant something different as we spoke.
祭りの幕開けが。
ええ、楽しい祭りの幕開けですわ。
I noticed an indescribably bitter smile on her face.
明日は晴れるといいですね。せっかくここまで準備して。
ここまで大々的に準備した盛大なお祭りですもの。雨天ごときで中止になるわけありませんわ。
そうですね。明日はどんな天気になろうとも。
ええ、盛大なお祭りになりきっと。
Okay. Our son had agreed to participate. In other words, he had given us the green light.
やるね。さぞや話をまとめるのは難しかったでしょう。
いや、それが私が呆れるくらいあっさり皆さん船。いや、若さっていいな。私一人だけがうじうじとみっともないったらありゃしないです。もう後には引けません。この大石クラウド。切るならど真ん中。最後まで突っ張りますよ。
Our son was always a man with great presence. He seems pretty reliable when he's that determined. This will work. This operation will be a success. The enemy is unthinkably strong, but we're going on the offensive first. It's like in sumo, right? No matter how huge the opponent may be, there's a chance the entire match can be settled in an instant with a quick shift in stance during the opening rush.
ね、リカ、味方が多いというのはこんなにも心強いことなのです。
もうあんたに口を挟む気はないわ。ほんの数日前まで私は運命に屈しかけていたというの。これは本当に運命をひっくり返せるかもしれない。
リカ、そんな弱い気持ちではダメなのです。
そうね、ひっくり返せるかも。ひっくり返す。
Yeah. If you gon' fuck, put your whole dick in it.
私たちは運命を打ち破る。
となれば次に重要なのはトラップのタイミングですわね。
タイミングも何もねえだろ。今夜にはリカちゃんが姿を消してから待てば待つほど相手を利するんだからすぐに仕掛けるべきだと思うぜ。
そうだね。慎重さは今回に限り相手を守りは慎重であるべきだけど攻めは大胆であるべきだと思う。
ケイイチとレナの太鼓判がもらえればどうですかみんな。
私は依存ないわ。もう覚悟は決まってる。いつだって OK よ。
木はすでに熟してる。どう見るサトコ。
急ぐのはもちろんですけど今すぐというのは早すぎますわ。相手の隙をつくならもう少し冷静に引き金を絞るべきでございましたよ。
奇襲なら夜だろ。今を除いて最高のタイミングがあるのかよ。
まあ落ち着きな。サトコの言うのも奇襲の定番は夜襲。でもね、ほらこうして深夜でも血気盛ん。夜襲が効果的だったのは電気がなかった時代の話だよ。近代戦では深夜は奇襲になり得ない。もっと最適な時間帯がある。
The middle of the day.
より適した時間帯があるのですか？
Because you would never expect him to do something in broad daylight.
わかったわ。幼稚の反対。朝がけね。
ほほ、難しい言葉をご存知ですね。確かに人間どの時間に一番電話がもらいたくないかと言ったら深夜よりは何しろ寝ぼけているところでは正常な判断が。
夜明け前の奇襲。いいタイミングだと思う。
私もそれが一番効果的。高野さんの性格から考えて5年目のたたりを装うなら今夜はそれの前夜に当たる。
前夜ほど流行る心を抑え十分な睡眠を見えてきましたわね。最高のトラップタイミングが。
夜明けの奇襲か。なんだよそれ。男として生まれたからには一度はやってみたいシチュエーション。
I've always wanted to do a surprise attack at dawn. It's seriously been on my bucket list. I can't believe I didn't think of this.
燃えてきた。
前原さんもうちの連中と同じですね。おや？ということは、男で燃え上がっていないのは私だけってことですかね。
Come on, Big Cloud. Get amped.
よーし。
Yeah.
ならいいですね。明日の早朝に48時間作戦を発動します。これで敵がどう動くかです。相手を撹乱し、その出方に合わせて攻撃する。これは遊撃作戦ですよ。
よし、部長園崎美音の名において48時間作戦の発動を命ず。
Fucking go.
決行は明朝4時。一気に慌ただしくなる可能性が高い。総員は何があっても即応できるよう心身のコンディションを最高で保つこと。そして忘れるな、ひなみ沢の後輩はこの一敵の陰謀を許せば村が滅ぶかもしれないんだよ。
けんなこと我が部の目が黒いうちには許すかってんだ。
さあ、相手がどう出るか、鬼が出るか、大蛇が出るか。みー、ニャーニャーが出てくるかもなのです。
みー。
そうだったら可愛いですわね。それはないです。
Put your hands down.
絶対に大きな動きが起こります。例えるなら、これは微震。大きな津波が押し寄せる前の予兆のよう。そうだね。レナもその微震を感じてるよ。さあ、その津波を起こしてやろう。飲み込まれるのは村か連中か。
俺たちはその波で波乗りとしゃれ込んでやるぜ。
This 48-hour operation will be a shock to the enemy. They'll panic, their pace will be off, and they're guaranteed to slip up somehow. We don't know how they're going to slip up, but just knowing that they will and preparing ourselves to act gives us the full advantage. We're surrounding our enemies on this huge game board that is Hinamizawa. This game, this festival, will start with our siege. Come on, we're ready. We're ready for June 19th, 1983. Hey, Rika. Have this many emotions ever gathered on this day? Actually, there are always this many emotions in this world. There are always countless numbers of them gathered on this forgotten June 19th. We just never realized it, because we always looked at the world subjectively. There's so many people in this world, and each of them has very important emotions. Those countless feelings are collecting together and giving shape to this world, this fragment. This many emotions. What kind of world will we see? What kind of fragment will we be granted? Who will win, Takano or us? The time to find out is now. Let's open it. Let's open the door to June 19th of 1983. Y'all got me amped. I'm excited. I'm very excited. For one, just how they're gonna like run this shit, because they gotta have some plans at the police station, right, to be putting these things into motion. I'm very curious to see how everything's gonna come together, just as far as like this operation goes, but then the fucking chain reaction of what's gonna happen after that. Like, what moves is Takano gonna make? What moves are the Mountain Dogs gonna make? In return, what moves is Tomitake gonna make? What moves is Akasaka gonna be forced to make? How's the club going to react? How's the village themselves going to react? Because that's another thing to consider of all this. If they just announce, oh yeah, Rika's dead, like, how's the village going to react? This is huge. This is huge. This is huge. This is huge. Let's go. Let's go. Let's continue. It was past midnight and almost dawn. The very quiet time of the night where staying up late and getting up early melded together. That exact thing was happening in the offices of the Okanogi Gardeners. There were only 2 people on guard duty, and they were playing cards. They weren't sentries, so they really didn't need to be on guard all the time. However, they weren't allowed to fall asleep either. After the TV broadcast went off the air a little past midnight, they usually ended up playing cards. Suddenly, the phone rang. The phone's right nearby, so one of them answered immediately.
毎度おこのぎ造園でございます。はい。
Suddenly, the man taking the call stood up with a jolt. He even hit his knee against the desk, but was too panicked to care. Takano dashed to the underground security room in a hurry.
お休みのところ申し訳ございません。さんさん。
コーヒーは後状況を。本当なの？
はい。午前4時15分。沖宮署内で身元不明死体が R であるという。
そんなわけない。だって R は風邪で寝込んで、それをあんたたちが監視してたんです。
その話に続きがありまして、沖宮署の諜報員によると、死後48時間が経過しているとか。
Takano could feel her blood freezing, starting from her feet. She just couldn't believe what was happening. At least 48 hours? At least 48 hours since the death of the Queen Carrier. Takano just couldn't understand.
そんなことありえない。だって。じゃあ村人はどうして平然早ければ36時間の段階で、つまり夕べの時点で。
しかし諜報員によると、村への進行上の影響を危惧して、現在署内に強い箝口令が敷かれているということです。
確実性が高いって言うなら。
さんさ、監視体制フルで理科は間違い。監視体制が敷かれて以来、彼女が外出したことは中にいたことも入江所長が確認なさっています。絶対にありえません。
ならどういうことよ。警察が死体は理科で48時間前に死んだって言ってるのよ。それがデマだっていうの？デマ？そうよ。勘違いだって私の作戦なら今日の夜私は岐阜県警内の工作員を。これはデマよ。何かの勘違いに違いない。
Takano wasn't confused because she was still half asleep. No, Takano was afraid. Her grandfather wrote in his article that within 48 hours of the Queen Carrier's death, everyone in the village would develop terminal stage symptoms. This would mean that he had been wrong. What about everyone who believed his words? What would they think?
失礼します。東京の野村様よりお電話です。
どこで鍵つけてるのよ。私が電話をしている間に大至急。
現在は非常に協力員が明朝に出勤すれば沖宮署へアプローチをかけ。
その早朝午前5時6時大至急よ。急がせなさい。おはようございます。高野です。
Ohio. All the unit members were gathered in the office of Okanogi Gardeners, which served as a garrison for the mountain dogs in Okonomiya.
ああ、沖宮署の方が分かり次第、俺とサンサに連絡しろ。それより R 宅の監視体制だが、R の在宅確認をなぜを。
風邪だったということで、その後入江所長が訪問し在宅を確認したため、それを。
あめえぜ。R 宅に少なくとも誰か。
はい、それは間違いなく。
隊長、R 宅に突入してはまだギリギリ可能な時間帯です。
そいつはサンサの許可がなければ。サンサも沖宮署の件が判明する突入命令に備えて R 宅監視を増員8人体制に増やせ。
隊長、今日は境内で祭り監視はできるでしょうが、突入はおそらく本日深夜まで不可能です。
うまいタイミングだ。うますぎるんじゃねえのかこいつは。
Okanogi's rusty yet wild instincts were sounding an alarm. He sensed that someone was attacking them. He sensed that his enemy had begun to attack. He realized that the enemy had taken the initiative. People usually take a deep breath before they attack. That moment right before they strike is their most vulnerable. Okanogi assumed that whoever his enemy was, they were led by an excellent commander who knew the precise moment to strike.
そういや先日の診療所での会合に
でしたでしょうか。
サンサ、俺に奴がどこに。
まさか
ウグイスで富武の寝床を。こいつは一杯食わされたかもしらんぞ。
Yep, they're gonna go to his hotel room and he definitely won't be there.
さて、もう。
さて、これで大山明堂して何が出るっすかね。
Koga was trembling with excitement.
クマちゃん、私は通信センターの方へ。ここは絶対に死守してください。
なっせ、死んでも誰も通さないです。
あとのわしの役目はかかってくる電話をわしもわしの持ち場へ戻るぞい。熊谷、ここは頼むぞ。
任してください。
Koga closed the door quietly and stood in front of it. This was his chance to show Oishi what he was made of. Oishi was on his way to the communication center. All radio communications and phone calls pass through there first. During business hours, each section answers its own phone calls. When they aren't open, the communication center answers them instead.
どうですかこちらは。
はい、
ついさっき外線経由が鑑識課の直通番号に1本。
相手は
県警本部大高警部です。
おお、大高君か。へえ。
Oishi grinned. The enemy had started to move. They must have bribed someone inside the police department to be their spy. And he had started to move just as they planned. Oishi was surprised to learn that it had been Otaka. Oishi never liked Otaka because he constantly boasts about his academic background, always opposed Oishi, who believes in relying on experience. They didn't get along at all when they worked together and at the prefectural police department.
通話が終わったようです。
じい様に聞いてみよう。ピッポッポッ。おーっと、大丈夫。いかがでした？
青に才が生きがりをってから鼻で足がってややっこさんと所長の出勤を待って朝一でこっちに
相変わらずてめえの体一つで喧嘩もできないんですかね。
わしもますますに面白くなってきた。今の電話で眠気が飛んだわ。やはりいる。お前の言う怪しげな連中がゾロゾロと這い出してくるのを感じるぞい。
Well, things are getting interesting now. What's up next? Hey, demons, over here. Come further in. Ring ring progressive.
もしもし、富武です。
おはようございます。富武に早朝にすみません。山犬に動きがありましたので、これつい先ほど山犬の全隊員に非常招集がかけられる。目的は不明です。
そうですか。動きがありましたか。
Tomitake turned on the light next to his bed and put on his glasses as he
それ
answered.
からそちらの警察内でまだ裏付けが取れませんが、女王感染者である
詳しい話。
収容されていた身元不明死体の身元がフルで理科死後48時間を経過。緊急マニュアル第34号の発令基準を超えた事態ですが、そちらでは何か情報が入っていませんか？
いえ、私は沖宮にいますので分かります。多分女王感染者の死亡。
こちらも誤報を疑っていますが、分析では情報の精度は極め未確認ですが、鑑識課職員複数が証言しているとも。
しかし
Tomitake realized something. He realized that the Okonome police station was Oishi's territory. He also realized that this must be the work of Rika and her friends. Tomitake tried to think calmly. Even if they didn't know where their enemy was, it's obvious the emergency manual is the signal for an explosion. So they must have come up with the idea to destroy that signal. The foundation of the emergency manual is that unless something is done about it within 48 hours after the Queen Carrier's death, all the villagers will develop terminal stage symptoms. So if nothing happens after 48 hours, there's no need for the emergency manual. And with that, the mountain dogs have been called in.
もしもし、富武に。
どうやら現状を考えると、入江機関に不穏な動きがないと一切に入江機関を緊急させ、また最悪の事態に備え、番犬部隊への予備命令。
了解しました。9時になればもっとまとまった連絡が入ってくると思う。山犬造反となればそちらも危険です。十分ご注意を。
もちろん用心してます。
では次の定期連絡は9時に。
It was 6 a.m. Tomitake would get another call in 3 hours.
ウグイス1より全員、富武は4065屋外監視、問題ないか？
ウグイス4、野外か。
ウグイス5、フロア問題。ウグイス3、室内は多分就寝してます。
There was a do not disturb sign on Tomitake's door. Perhaps he stayed up very late last night and was planning to sleep in. This was a great chance for the Nightingales.
いいか、生かして捉えろ。三叉のオーダーだぞ。始めろ。
They tried to break into Tomitake's room very quietly. Obviously, it was a simple job for them to pick a hotel room's lock. Two members of the door communicate with each other using sign language. Even knowing he was asleep, it would be a good idea not to barge in. They opened the door very cautiously and very quietly. The room's interior was organized but tasteless, typical of cheap hotels. The only furnishings were a bed, a small desk, and a coin-operated TV. Fucking coin-operated TV? I didn't know those existed. Clearly only one person could stay in this room. And there in the bed, Tomitake couldn't be found.
どうしたウグイス3、応答しろ。
そう、もぬけの殻です。
It was still early in the morning, but the room was empty.
どういうことで？富武には野鳥撮影とまさか。
いや、違う。こいつは多分やられたぞ。
The do not disturb sign was on the door. With that sign there, the housekeepers wouldn't come in the room, so they wouldn't know if it was empty or not. The sign had probably been on there since at least the day before. Knowing that Tomitake was planning to stay for a long period, the hotel hadn't really paid much attention. In other words, the room had been empty since then.
多分、奴は襲撃を予見して宿を変えたんだ。そうか。それでしばらく三叉に緊急連絡。ちくしょう。こっちの作戦が漏れているぞ。
Okanogi realized that he had been beaten to the punch. The foundation of the emergency manual had collapsed, and with that basis of the final operation was shaky. Okanogi felt that the Major had panicked and rushed into confirming what was going on too hastily. Tomitaki suspected us and went into hiding. Then after, caught wind of that, he was sure to come grab us by our tails. Okanogi tried to calm himself. If he was going to investigate in secret, you could assume that Tomitaki was still nearby. The department in Tokyo must be the one conducting the investigation, so he must be waiting somewhere for a report from that department. Tomitaki was probably at a new hotel, probably somewhere in Okonomiya.
東京班のカラスに連絡を取れ。おそらく調査部が定期連絡してる相手がいるはずだ。その相手の番号を調べさせろ。そいつが獅子骨市内の番号だったらビンゴだ。
Okanogi was confident about his hunch, but if what he was thinking was correct, that meant his identity was about to be exposed. Also meant his operation had failed before it even started. But it wasn't a checkmate quite yet. If he could prove that the dead body at the Okonomiya police station wasn't R, then everything would go back to square one. All he had to do was capture Tomitaki and then check the body at the station. That was all.
隊長、通話内容は確認不能ですが、電話番号だけなら何とかできると。ただし、時間が
どの程度？
ほんの数時間ほど。
ほんのときたも。せかしゃしねえが、可能な限り急げと伝えろ。
It was a little past 6 a.m. It was already light outside, but still too early for the cicadas to start their morning chorus. They'd endured the first wave. It was now a matter of how quickly they could recover. Okanogi just hoped that the Major didn't throw a fit.
隊長、カラスより連絡です。で、なお調査部は9時を定時連絡時刻に定めているよ。
あと3時間か。
He looked up the clock. Even the little things were beginning to bother Okanogi. Every time the second hand moved, he became more impatient, realizing the check-in time was getting closer and closer.
それから調査部長の岡一佐が番犬に対し予備命令を発令し、任務は示されていないとのことです。
ってことは、引っ込みがつくような招集って大事でなけりゃ訓練ってことにして大丈夫だ。まだ時間があるって。
続報です。調査部長が幕僚長の自宅へ電話しています。内容は不明。
大丈夫だ。まだギリギリ大丈夫。
Bloodhound standby orders meant they saw a very high chance of the Ida Institute revolting. People on site must be practically certain of it. Although it's not as difficult to execute as the emergency manual, ordering out the Bloodhounds isn't that easy. They only did so because they've realized that some kind of trouble is afoot. Okanogi was sure that the people who wanted to conclude matters peacefully were trying to settle things down by saying it was just a mistake. In order to the Bloodhounds to stand by without clarifying a mission is like a middle ground in that sense. But the head of the research division had called the chief of staff. This was a very dangerous situation for the Mountain Dogs. In other words, the higher ranks of the SDF, or people even higher than them, had decided that the Bloodhounds could take the field. The uniforms are hot-blooded, but the suits always push for peaceful resolutions. They still hadn't decided which way they wanted to go yet. Our loss wasn't certain yet. Win or tie, everything was riding on the same table. If that was the case, the call coming in at 9 a.m. from the research division didn't bode well. Okanogi couldn't say why, but he had that impression. It was just his wild instinct doing its job. He could guess that the people in Tokyo were going to ask Tomitaki about the situation in detail, and then decide what to do next. It was possible that the head of the division, or even chief of staff himself, might come on the phone. Then the Bloodhounds might get an order as soon as the 9 a.m. phone conversation was over, which would result in his defeat. Tokyo was still unsure. Some were still thinking it was some kind of mistake, or they wanted to think it was some kind of mistake. If Tomitaki didn't answer the phone, they might send some people immediately, but they wouldn't order out the Bloodhounds. There was a chance it could end in a draw. If they found out the body didn't actually belong to R, then although it would corner them, they still had a good chance of winning. But they'd lose the possibility of a complete victory. Okanogi knew that Takano's clients hadn't ordered anything else but exactly that. He didn't want to admit it, but the enemy's surprise attack had succeeded.
隊長。
やかましい。連中はまだ確信してない。疑っちゃいるが、まだギリギリだ。とにかく先に情報を得た方が連中が尻尾をつかむか。確かに初戦の奇襲で徹底的にやられだから白旗を上げるんじゃねえ。とにかく待つ。カラスが富武の潜伏、警察の協力員が R の死亡。とにかく今は待つんだ。
失礼します。高野三佐からです。相当ご立腹の様子です。
そしてチャンスを待とうって。
She sounds
俺はお姫様おもりか。あ、もしもし。まだそう決まったわけじゃん。まずは落ち着いてコーヒーでも。
Okanogi tried to change the subject while pretending to laugh, but all he could hear was Takano's frantic voice. Couldn't even understand what she was trying to say. The second hand on the clock ticked on. He was going to be able to smile at the end of it all. Today was going to be a long battle. Okanogi's instinct told him so.
お疲れさんです。今のは誰？
今度はうちの花たれ。だんだんと手強くなってきたが、事務や風情が技術屋に勝てると思ったが、しかし所長が今日所長会のゴルフでよかったわ。直接来られたらちと面倒だったぞ。
ゴルフ場から電話とは仕事してんだかしてないんだか。大高君め、所長と一緒に乗り込みたかったろうに。
間接攻撃でダメなら次は直接攻撃ですかね。乗り込んできますか、大高の。
所長が捕まらないんじゃ自分で乗り込むしかないと踏むでしょ。もうじか8時半か。下の窓口が開く頃だ。
Morning had finally arrived. The chorus of cicadas had begun. That familiar sound would make one think it was just another day. But it was hardly going to be normal. It wasn't just an ordinary Sunday. Oishi and his men already realized they were grazing at the tip of a huge conspiracy.
大高君の性分だと多分堂々と胸を張って
自分だけが正義だと思ってるやつに。
わしはここで電話を耐える。お前らはそいつを頼むぞ。
よし、お出迎えで行きましょうかね。クマちゃんはここを頼みます。
The lobby of the Okonomiya police was just like that of any other police station. It could probably be said to have a welcoming atmosphere. Some of the tiles on the floor were broken and cracked, so sometimes people tripped on them. Those spots were covered by pieces of cardboard, and there was a sign that said, "Caution, watch your step." There was also a pot with a dead plant in it. It was far from a friendly lobby. Unlike hospitals and banks, there wasn't a line of people at the counters of the police station. There were a few sitting on the sofa waiting for the counters to open. And they would open soon. Some workers were standing by on the other side of the counters. Otaka was snobbish enough that Oishi didn't want to deal with him first thing in the morning. If only he was a pretty young woman with big boobs. Oishi and his men were on a very important job. If Otaka found out that Rika Kurede's death had been faked, the operation was finished. They're only able to shake up the enemy now, while Rika Kurede's death is still in the books. They had to stall for every minute, every second they could, so Tomitaka could seize hold of the tail that was popping out. So if the truth about Rika Kurede's death was exposed before Tomitaka had that chance, the enemy would recover. The emergency manual would gain its credibility, and although the enemy wouldn't enact it immediately, they would try again for sure. Rika Kurede had detected the conspiracy ahead of time, but that was a miracle. The divine wins. Japan had prevented Mongol invasions twice in the past with such miracles, but nothing like that happened during World War II. They may not be so lucky next time. They might not get another chance. There might be no next time at all. Unless they defeated them this time, they would never win again. While it was possible to do some serious damage, a tied game would inevitably lead to the enemy's victory. They had to completely expose what the enemy was up to, allowing Tomitaki to call in a suppression unit to defeat them. That was why Oishi had to stop their vanguard here. His job, therefore, was an extremely important one. If the enemy's conspiracy succeeded, Yanamizawa would be destroyed, and more than 2,000 villagers would be executed in a gas disaster. Either way, the incident would never go public. The people's lives depended on him. Oishi was violating his professional duties. However, he had to do what was right. Oishi thought back to when the old man taught him that. Yeah. Someone who, despite that weather, was wearing a suit, came in through the automatic sliding door. He had two of his colleagues with him. He was showing off his authority like he always did.
Yo! Ohayou gozaimasu, Otaka-kun.
これはこれ、おはようございます。それから私のことは君と呼ばないでください。もうあなたに君で呼ばれるような立場ではありません。
まあまあ、そんなこと言わずに、大高くん。
Yeah, you really emphasized it. Otaka-kun.
同じ宅で麻雀を打ってよしみじゃないですか?
Otaka seemed disgusted to hear that. He used to boast about being a good mahjong player, but Oishi once beat him badly in front of many people, which hurt his pride.
あなたとゆっくり休校を温めたいところですが、今日は急ぎの。
まあまあ、そう言わ。交流剣道大会で少女の筆行委託を忘れちまったと。あんたが私に泣きついてきたんで、こっそりステージ裏で書いてあげたから。
その件については感謝していますが、今は関係。
ありゃ、感謝してくれてな。そりゃ失礼。そういう話はとんと聞いたこと。県警では私が書きたいとわがまま言ったから筆行委託を断って、症状の字があまりにうまくないのでどういうことなんだと本部長に聞かれて以来のあなたの言い訳のはずですが。
さあどうなんでしょう。誰かが誤解してるんじゃないですか。私はそんなこと言ってませんよ。
県警本部はあなたの島だろうが、 あいにここあんたの思い通りにゃ。
ほう、それはどういう意味ですか、大石さん。
あんたがここへ何しに来たかは知らんが、あんたの島はゴグラだ。沖宮じゃない。おとなしく引き上げてもらえ。
何の権限があってだね。
そちらこそ何の権限があってで。
県警本部で現在捜査中のある秘匿捜査事件についてだ。その件に関連があると思われる身元不明死体がこちらにある。
なら電話でお問い合わせを。
なるほど。どうやら鑑識課の所長から検視報告を全て県警本部に引き渡すよう命令が来ているはずです。
その件については鑑識から所長に説明。まだ検視中でね。ちょいとうちのミスで身元が特定されたような情報ですので、報告書を出すにはちょいと。
ならその検視に我々も立ち会わ。
嫌です。
はあ、私は県警本部の秘匿事件担当として。
それが本当。私はあんたの刑事魂を疑う。刑事魂は貢献。そりゃお給料がもらえなかったらこんな商売誰だってやりゃしない。ですがね、それだけじゃ測れない魂がなきゃ、あんたにその魂があるってんだ。
Looking at Oshi's eyes made clear the anger that was roiling within him. As he looked into those eyes, Otaka recalled all kinds of frightening memories. Otaka didn't want Oishi to sense his fear, but he couldn't prevent himself from loudly swallowing.
ならそこを言う。私も刑事魂でそこをどいてください。
Yes, I have policeman's spirit. No, please.
なら私をその刑事魂で押してどかしてみなさい。
Yeah, you claim you got big nuts? Whip them out, big dog.
これ
なんですって。
あんたの刑事魂が私の刑事魂に負けないくらいに重いものなら試してみなさい。
She was obviously saying they had no intention of letting Otaka through. How could he do this? Otaka was confused. Otaka was an elite policeman at the prefectural police headquarters. He believed academic background and performance record were enough to earn trust. He has been working hard under that belief. But Oishi doesn't acknowledge that. He doesn't even respect him. He's a scumbag. He was the worst type of person, one who tried to establish their meaning and purpose through rough means, refusing to acknowledge everything about their superiors in order to protect their own pride, as uncivilized people often did. Otaka had been thinking ever since they worked together. Why do people trust in someone like Oishi? Why do people respect someone like him? Why do people appreciate someone like Oishi more than they did Otaka?
今すぐ動かなければ捜査妨害で君を告発することもできるんだ。
それはどんな捜査ですか。話してくれりゃ協力。
だから秘匿捜査だから君ごとき田舎署の刑事には話せんのだ。
なるほど。全部話せないな。あんたはその仕事に何を背負ってます？
背負う？何を言ってるんだ。
私はね、私の後ろには村の住民の命運。あんたを通せば2000人、いやその親戚やご家族も含めればもっと大勢の人が悲しむことになる。あんた分かってますよ。
何の話かさっぱり。
腹をかける。あんたの飼い主は恐ろしいこと。あんたはそこまで想像がついちゃいないだろう。何千人もの人が不幸になる恐ろしい陰謀を企んだ。そいつがくじかれる瀬戸際だってんで、多分就寝中だったあんたを叩き起こしてすぐに調べろと命じたんだ。いくらの小遣いで頼まれてるかは知らん。それがあんたの刑事魂より重いってんなら。
Oh, she stopped talking there. His eyes continued to speak after that.
何を言っているのかさっ。とにかくそこを通してください。
Otaka's baffled behavior confirmed what Oishi had just said. He'd been bought off by someone shady. Though maybe he didn't think that he was bought. He probably thought he was just filling the request to confirm Nikopuride's body as a favor from someone in the information network he assumed he built himself. Of course, the part about it being a classified investigation was a lie. When an elite policeman from the prefectural headquarters said it was a classified investigation, everyone would grovel and salute him. But, Oishi didn't salute him at all.
このことは後日必ず所長に。
おう、話はまだ終わってません。
As Otaka tried to walk by, Oishi grabbed him by the arm. Otaka tried to make him let go, but Oishi was just too strong.
話してください、大石さん。
あれよ、大して力を入れてるつもり。あんたに真の刑事魂があったら、あんたの揺るぎない正義が。私なんかだが、あんたはこの程度の腕も剥がせない。なんでかわかります。 離せ。てめえには刑事魂がないからだよ。
Oishi let go of his shoulder and Otaka tumbled to the floor, sliding for more than 2 meters. Goddamn, alright. 2 whole meters.
これは捜査妨害だ。公務執行妨害。いや、傷害の現行犯だぞ。緊急対応しろ。
Otaka ordered his colleagues around, but they didn't know what to do. Oishi was also a policeman, and obviously there was something more going on between them. Besides, they could sense one thing. Their instincts were telling them that Oishi was far stronger than them. They were no match at all. Some officers were gathering in the lobby. They all looked puzzled. The officers alternately looked between Oishi and Otaka. They knew something was going on, but they didn't know the circumstances. They didn't know which one to stop. Oishi was respected by the policemen at the Okonomiya station. Everyone respected him. If Oishi had said that Otaka was being selfish, then he must be at fault. Oishi was generally seen as sensible. All of them thought that Oishi would only do this in a public place like a lobby if it was something major. Otaka was feeling humiliated to get such attention. He stood up calmly, hiding his humiliation with anger.
はそんなもん。俺はひなみ沢2000人を背負って諸葛管内2000人の命を預かってる。ならば2000人を押し退ける気迫で。
It was like watching a match between a sumo wrestler and a small child. No matter how many times Otaka tried to tackle Oishi, he simply crumbled against him. Oishi stood firm as if his feet were rooted to the earth. By the third time Otaka tumbled to the floor, he finally realized that he had been provoked. He caught his breath and fixed his hair.
わかりました。ならば大志、私が担当している事件はその経由でとある方面から真偽を確かめてほしい。
回りくどい言い方じゃわかりませんな。
Yeah, he thinks just mentioning the Sonozaki family will tip the scales and be like, yeah, nah, you hate the Sonozakis, right? Yeah, I'm investigating the Sonozakis. Yeah, you're gonna let me through now, right? He's like, okay.
もうちょいわかるようにお願いします。
何しろ疑われているのは南沢地区では進行上のそれが事実かどうかすぐに確かめなければなりません。
だから電話で説明したでしょ。現在調査まだまだお時間がかかり。
いや、この依頼はもう隠すのはやめ。あなたの大の苦手の園崎議員からです。
紋付き袴の確かに苦手ですね。あの人に凄まれたら私も道理を引っ込めて無理を通すしか。
そう、その園崎議員から住民の依頼ですから、住民のための警察です。引き受けるのは当然。何しろフルデリ特別な意味を持つ。その少女の死体が出たなんて話。そうでしょ。
あんたそういうのは一般。ここロビー。
Otaka suddenly realized his mistake. Some people were even whispering behind him. One of them spoke to Otaka hesitantly.
ご安心を。まだそうと決まったわけ。それを確認するために県警から参上しました。
そうです。まだそうと現在それを確認中なんです。
その確認に立ち私は園崎議員、その私にここまでの邪魔をしてくれ。困ったことになるのはそろそろ降参した方がいいんじゃありませんか。
Representative Sonozaki was well known in this area as an extremely tough congressman. People who knew about him continued to whisper. Otaka grinned when he heard them whispering. He realized then that in Okonomiya, his threat was more effective than he thought it would be. All his bluff. Ah! Hell yeah! Oh, look who just so happened to be here! Oh, the man himself is in the building? Oh, shit!
そこのけそれ園崎議員さんが本当に頼んだんですかね。
Oh, Oishi, you devilish dog.
私が議員から直接どうです大石さんさすがにこう
People continue to whisper. Representative Sonosaki is a big name around here, Otaka thought. Even gangsters give way if someone mentions his name in Okonomiya.
さあ議員が怖かったらそ
ああ反則切符の最高峰は8番
はあ私がいつ反則切符など
Oishi suddenly started to talk about something completely different. In fact, Oishi was looking at something behind Otaka. Yeah, he's like, what, who the hell? Who the hell would be so important that you're talking to them instead of me? Oh. Oh, you devilish dog. Oh, you devilish dog. You even told... Oh. Oh. Of course they're not in on it, but you devilish bastard. He said, yeah, go to the police station tomorrow for your ticket. Hell, I'll let you get priority in the waiting line. Tomorrow morning. Oh, you devilish bastard. So you knew if anyone came in here trying to use that threat. Oh. Oh, you devilish bastard. I love this old man. Huh? Who was he talking to? Otaka wondered. An old-fashioned elderly man and a lady in kimono were standing behind him. When Otaka's eyes met with hers, she smiled at him. She's definitely my type, Otaka thought. Yeah? You want to keep going down that road?
なあ、本当に園崎議員秘書とかそういうのじゃなく
Yeah, you have no idea what... Ah! That's awesome. He has no idea what he even looks like, right? He's just gonna be out here flaunting around. Yep, the representative himself talked to me personally. No middleman, no nothing. It was just to me. I'm that important. Yeah.
そうこう見えても園崎議員とは懇意な関係でしたね
Yes! Yes! We're practically besties.
直接お電話をいただくこともあるのです
I love it. I love it. The elderly man continued to listen with a puzzled expression.
お前誰じゃい
あ名乗るほどではあり県警本部に勤める一警官に過ぎませんよ
I'm just an ordinary policeman. Yeah, and I'm the representative. Who are you?
あまりにもできすぎたシチュエーションです
なんだそれは私も気づかなかった
I love it. Otaka couldn't understand why Oishi and this lady were
ど
laughing.
うしたんですか今日はご一緒で
いやそれ例の切符な左折禁止の看板が茂っその出口に白バイが待ってるってのはちょいとやり口が来た三郎さんがそれは抗議した方がいいって言ってこうしてついてきて
ああ行動の樹木は市役所の管轄でよくそういうのうちに来るんですがなんともしがたいんですよね
それを知りながら出口で待ち伏せとるっちゅうがこうして抗議に来たんじゃ
わかりましたそいつは市役所と交通課に私の方から行ってきますんで
あんたが今日は引き上げるとしよう
When Otaka realized they were Oishi's guests, he fixed his tie and spoke up.
違反規則です
カチンとくるお人だね
カチンとくるお茶目な一面もたまーに
私は今そこのさあお二人ともそして良い一日を
ああ良い一日をね県警の旦那も
The two of them grabbed Otaka's shoulders from behind. They grabbed his right shoulder and the elder man grabbed his left.
県警の旦那私は生まれてこの何かわかるか
は
一つは椎茸生まれた時からこいつだけは苦手でね
Hell yeah.
食うのもダメだし出汁を取ったもう一つは嘘食わされるのもダメだし出汁に使われるここまでコケにされちゃいけないね石骨の鬼姫園崎茜売られた喧嘩は値引かないのだけが自慢さ
その崎あと鬼姫って部分を一市民に置き換えれば完璧です
The police officers, the citizens in the lobby, and Otaka's colleagues didn't know what was going on.
こちらは園崎赤獅子骨市婦人研友会の副会長さん。こちらは園崎三郎県剣道連盟の名誉理事さんです。それより前に方が獅子骨肉選出の県議園崎先生です。いやお二人とも県警剣道部師範代の大高君に稽古をつけるために本日はお越しくださったんですよね。バカね。朝から本当に申し訳。さあ先生方を道場にお通ししてください。
なんじゃい、お前さんとは今日はとことん付き合ってもらう。
Yeah, did you say we were close? Come on, bestie. Let's go have some fun. The two of them were still clinging to his shoulders and laughing meaningfully. Ataka laughed along with them. That's fucking awesome. Oh my god. Oh fuck, that's great.
確かですわよね。確かに昨日の時点で入江所長は女王感染者が
在宅を夏風邪をひいたというので、ですからリカさんの死体が見つかるなんて。
そうですわよ。でもそれを確認しないと信じてしまっ。
誰が何の誤解をするんですか？
そのフルでリカが死んだなどと村に知れたら大変な騒ぎになりますし。
Oh, please elaborate. I'm certain that she's lying. I don't even need to wait to hear from Tomitake-san. Takano-san's objective is the execution of the emergency manual. Its premise is about to be destroyed, and that's why she's panicking. She finally found someone who showed an interest in her research, which made her feel better about herself. Yet that someone is about to cut her off, and that's why she's panicking. She's as pitiful as can be. If it were possible there was a way to reach out to her, I would reach out to save her from drowning. My hand will never reach. I won't reach her unless she reaches out. She's drowning, but as long as she refuses to seek help, I'll never reach her. Until she realizes it herself, no matter how much I reach out, she'll refuse my helping hand. However, my selfish imagination will have to stop there for now. Is Rika-chan home or not? If she goes into the details, she'll become suspicious of me since I told her I saw Rika-chan at home. That'll put me in a very dangerous position. Yup. A man who had been on the phone for some time put down the receiver.
さんさ、電話に出ません。不在のようです。
監視班は何と言ってるの？
いえ、監視体制に入った17日以降、外出の形跡はなく、電話の一本もありません。
ねえ、ということはまだ中にリカちゃんたちはいる？
ええ、そういうことだと思います。もうだいぶ治りか、うまく抜け出してほら、今日は綿流しのお祭り。リカさんの家の近くには確か人の出入りも多いですから、監視の方が見逃してしまう。
どうなの？そんなことはあり得る？
入江所長が出られた後には必ずシールしています。まさか窓から出たのでもない限りありえないでしょう。
山犬はあくまでも R は家を出ていないと。
そうです、間違いあります。 R は R 宅内です。そして17日以降絶対に在宅しています。
それを確認したのが入江所長だけで、山犬の誰一人確認。
One of the mountain dogs looked at me. I swallowed and then nodded to him.
ならどうして沖宮署で R の死体が出てきたりするの？
ですからそれは誤報の可能性も。その後の情報では身元不明死体の検視はまだ終わっておらず。
もうその話は、その怪情報が流れて東京にまで伝わってからもう何時間が経過。このままでは東京に。
Takano-san realized that I was standing next to her and shut her mouth. I could already tell what she wanted to say, though.
さんさ、東京の野村様よりお電話です。
だからしばらく待てと言ってるのに。
Takano-san usually has a lot of self-control, but she's not doing so well right now. Even her body language makes it clear how irritated she is. Does she have a habit of scratching herself? As she folded her arms, I could see marks where her nails touched her skin. She's clearly not doing well.
高野さんはお急ぎ。私が出ましょう。野村さんで初めてお電話いただく。
いえ、サンサ宛てですので。
The mountain dog looked alternately between Takano-san's and my faces.
入江所長、今ちょっと立て込んでおります。大変申し訳ございませんけど、所長。
そうですか、そうですね。入江機関の運営は私が口を出すことではありませんね。
誰か 所長室まで早く。
She's basically telling me to get out. I left the security room quietly.
もしもし高野です。お待たせして申し訳。
何度もお電話してもいかがですか？
申し訳ご。今急ぐように指示をしているところです。すでに内部協力員を沖宮署に向かわせました。
そうですか。では何時頃までにこちらにご連絡をいただけますか？
もちろん分かり次第。ただそれがいつになるかはお約束が難しいのですが。大至
サンサ、飛行機に乗ったことは終わりですか？飛行機が離陸するために加速するとき、この時に大きな出力を得るため、その時まだ大して速度が出ていないならブレーキをかけ離陸を断念するそうですが、もしすでに十分な速度が出ていた場合は、4発の旅客機ならうち1つのエンジンが壊れていても、それはもちろんこのエンジンは1つではありませんから、十分な後のことはどうとでもなります。ですが、この度の作戦という飛行機はまだ十分な速度どころかお分かりですね。
First step of the operation was Tomitake's assassination. That hasn't even happened yet, so what Nomura was saying was correct.
もしあなたが乗った旅客機が離陸前からエンジンが降りるでしょう。同じことです。離陸前からエンジンに故障が見つかったため、乗客であるクライアントたちが飛行機を降りたがっています。
If they're already at the point of no return, then a little mistake wouldn't matter that much. But since they're still before that point, they're overly cautious about even a tiny mistake.
それが本当に故障なのか？今。
あなたは管制塔の管制官。私は彼らをなだめる添乗員。離陸の見込みの薄くなる飛行機から降りたいと言い出すくらい、これ以上事態の改善が遅れると高野さんさ。それはつまりあなたの祖父の論文が一人の少女が死ぬと何を根拠にそんな、この分厚い研究結果は全てそんな高野ひふみと高野美代。おかしいおかしいおかしい。
Takano ground her teeth. She squeezed... Okay, are you done, ma'am? She squeezed the receiver so tightly her knuckles went white.
となってしまいます。お分かりですか？これはあなたとあなたの尊敬してやまないおじいちゃんの。
お気遣いをありがとうございます。
安心して、私はあなたのあなたにとって一番幸せに報われる結末ですので、どうか私の顔も立てて。私も努力してますけど、機嫌を損ねるクライアントの皆、
ご迷惑をおかけします。もうしばらくだけご猶予。はい、失礼いたします。
Takano made sure that Nomura hung up first, then hung up herself.
おこのぎから連絡は電話して。
サンサ、情報が入ればすぐに連絡し、少し先ほどのコーヒーも。
You remember tried to serve a cup of coffee to Takano, but she knocked it aside. The cup fell on the floor, making a black puddle. Everyone in the security room went silent.
何よ、ボケっとしている暇があったら10分前に電話してても構わない。沖宮署の死体がフルで理科ではないという裏付けと行方不明の富武の確保よ。
Takano's starting to realize something. But now she could sense that there was something behind Tomitake's disappearance. Tomitake must know something about what's happening at the Okonomiya police station. He might look dumb, but he somehow found out about the plan. He was trying to mess with Takano. So Tomitake was clearly behind all of it. Takano had been intending to let him enjoy the festival that night if he behaved. The quickest way for Takano to be certain of what was happening would be to see Rika Furude's face at her house. But she couldn't leave, and she couldn't trust Irie. And because there were too many people around for the festival, the mountain dogs had their hands full. If she would answer the phone, that'd do, but she wouldn't answer. That meant the house was empty, and that Rika Furude's death was real. What went wrong? Who deceived Takano? There was only one person. The only person who claimed that he saw her at the house. Irie was the most suspicious person around. Dog, I hope you dialed that phone. I hope you dialed that phone. Because you should already know that she's gonna fucking jump your ass as soon as she puts two and two together. As soon as they sent you back to your office, I hope you dialed that phone so that the 3 minutes go by. Tomitake had left the hotel and was nowhere to be found. So maybe Rika had left her house and was hiding somewhere else. In other words, Irie betrayed her and was in contact with Tomitake.
入江所長。
まさか所長の在宅確認、どうして所長が。
富武は いつの段階でかわからないけど、そして宿を脱出し、R も秘密裏に安全なところへ避難。私たちはまんまと騙されて空き家を見張り続けてたのよ。
空き家ということは人影が確かに。
それが R だというR じゃない。監視する山犬を騙すために誰かがあそこに身代わりとしてる。おこのぎに R 宅への強行突入を命じなさい。誰がいるんだか知らないけど、そいつは富武や理香にそいつを締め上げるの。
しかし R 宅前は水場になっており、今日の祭りが終わる深夜までは不可能です。
それをなんとかするのが山犬。なんとかしなさいな。なんで私の言うことは聞けないっていうの。私の上の保護者の言うことじゃなきゃ聞け。
Jesus Christ. The unit members could only watch in silence. They knew that nothing could comfort her. The noise of the phone suddenly broke the silence. Takano practically jumped.
はい。カラスが東京調査部の定期連絡先の電話番号は獅子骨し、山犬が住所の特定作業に入りました。
富武だ。間違いない。ひばり、腕利きを集めろ。奴は用心してるぞ。白崎はバックアップし。
了解。ひばり湾より全範囲突入先が特定され次第全員登場しろ。
くそ、電話会社の協力に
調べさせてます。5分です。
It was 8:45 a.m. They didn't know where in Shishibone City he was staying, but depending on where it was, it might be too far to get there before 9 a.m. They'd have to depend on luck.
バカ野郎、5分じゃねえ。何やってやがんだ。端末に番号を打つだけだろうが。
来ました。住所は市内平坂1丁目のホテルモデラート。交換機を経由しているため部屋番号は不明。
聞こえたな、ひばり。
了解。出動。
Luckily, Hirosaka Block 1 was close enough. Okanogi had been right. Tomitaka was hiding nearby. The garage doors of Okanogi Gardeners opened one after another, and the white van sped off in a hurry.
やら、今度はこっちの番だ。まさか調査部に俺の子飼いが混じってるとは思わなかった。こっちが今度は貴様を奇襲してやるぞ。
Except he did. Hotel Moderato. Despite its name, it had a cheap stained sign out front. A dilapidated business hotel on the outskirts of town, the perfect place for someone to lay low in. They might have drawn some guests if they renovated the building into a more modern love hotel, but it was clear they didn't have the capital for renovations and could go under any minute. That's the kind of hotel it was. Tomitaka was staying in one of the rooms on the second floor. The interior of the room was worse than his previous hotel. It only had a bed and a phone. That phone was what he needed the most at the moment. If he didn't have to receive regular reports, he would keep changing hotels, which was safer. But he needed up-to-date information from the research division, and its course of action would change according to that information. Moving about unnecessarily might cause miscommunication in case of an emergency. Tomitaka never suspected that there was a spy in the research division. The ticking sound from the clock echoed throughout the room. It was almost 9 a.m., but the phone might not ring at 9 on the dot. Tomitaka waited in front of the phone patiently. He tried to organize the information in his head so that he could answer questions more calmly. At the same time, he kept in mind the possibility of an attack. At that time, he heard a woman scream in the distance. It happened again. He heard another scream. Tomitaka got the sense that something was happening inside the hotel. His intuition told him that someone was checking every single room with a master key. Tomitaka opened the curtain a little. He saw several mountain dogs who were blocking all the ways out of the hotel. How long had they been there? Finally, they had finally found where he was. Tomitaka could hear their loud footsteps. He heard voices too. This cheap hotel wouldn't have chains on the door. They had no means to fend off the master key. Tomitaka could tell there were around 20 of them. Now, maybe there were more. It would be no use trying to fight with them. All he could do was hide. Under the bed, or in the bathroom. At the very least, the ceiling wouldn't open up like in the movies. Should he jump out the window? It was the second floor after all. It was perfectly possible to survive a jump. They would be expecting that, however. If this was right on the city grounds. If he was confident in his legs, it wouldn't be impossible to outrun them. Tomitaka soon heard footsteps outside his door. This was it. He jumped from the window. Of course, there were mountain dogs on the ground waiting for him. They pointed, and about 6 of them started running after him. Tomitaka shot off right from the position he landed in. This took the mountain dogs by surprise. He started to dash right after he jumped out of the second floor window. Tomitaka was prepared to do something like that. He'd been training in case of an emergency, just like this one.
ひばり湾より白鷺標的は裏通りを西に向かい逃走制圧しろ
白鷺2そっちへ行くぞ来たぞやつだ
Three members of the Mountain Dogs jumped out from behind the streetlight and stood in Tomitake's way. They prepared to stop him, but Tomitake kept running at full speed. They quickly realized he wasn't running towards them to knock them down. He was trying to run past them. There's no point in them taking a fighting position. They lowered themselves and tried to tackle him simultaneously. Tomitake jumped over him. Yup. He jumped over them like an Olympic athlete leaping over a hurdle. But he was an Olympic athlete and they weren't hurdles. Tomitake's heel struck one of the dogs. Two flanking Tomitake thought they'd seized hold of him. However, as he flew over them easily, he grabbed onto the two of their heads and smashed them to get each against each other. Tomitake knew this wouldn't stop them, but at least he gained a little time to run.
標的西側阻止線を追跡中バカ野郎何やってんだ白鷺10車両で回り込め2つ先のブロックを左折で大丈夫かくっそ逃がすな野郎くそ話が止まらねえ
Tomitake saw a van with its door wide open ahead of him. Couldn't stop in time, and it hit the wall. As soon as it stopped, several mountain dogs jumped out of the van. Tomitake saw 5 men ahead of him, but he didn't think even those 5 could stop him. Why did trains sound their horn at people on the rails? It's not because the train will get damaged. It's because the people will get hurt. He yelled at them like the horn of a train. He wasn't warning them because they were in his way. He was warning them to move so that they didn't get hurt. Tomitake didn't grin. After all, trains don't grin.
Tomitake の確保に成功しました。
本当いろいろと聞きたいことが殺しちゃダメよ。どうせ殺すけど彼には似合いのし
The phone continued to ring inside of Tomitake's empty hotel room. Within 30 minutes, Tomitake was dragged through the back door of the Ide Institute wearing a gag and handcuffs. Tomitake didn't even move, as though he was sedated. The Mountain Dog members had carried him out of the van. Ide saw Tomitake from his window and came out of his office in a hurry. Please tell me you fucking called Akasaka. Takano was already there.
これは何事ですか、高野さん。
Mountain Dog silently glared at Irie. He realized that he shouldn't have left his room.
二郎さんの姿が見えないと思ったら不審に思い山犬たち
富武さんがですか
Of course, Tomitake didn't reply. Irie decided not to say any more.
そうです。それはとてもすぐに治療薬を投与してください。
もちろん投与の間に合う
Ide already knew. Mountain Dogs had tracked him down. Ide wasn't sure if Tomitake was able to arrange something with Tokyo. He wasn't even sure if the Bloodhounds had been called in. He guessed that Tomitake didn't have time. If the Bloodhounds were called in, the Mountain Dogs would catch that information. And if that was the case, they would likely drop everything and run. But Tomitake was captured and they brought him back to the Institute. That meant it hadn't gotten that far. They were still trying to fix the damage. In other words, Tomitake wasn't able to do what they had hoped for. What were they going to do to Tomitake? Since they brought him back alive, were they planning to torture confession out of him? That would be very dangerous for him. He'd likely end up dead. Ide realized that he had to do something in Tomitake's place. The main reason why Ide had to rescue Tomitake was because he had no way of contacting Tokyo on his own. Takano wanted Ide to be useless, so she never told him about how to get in touch with Tokyo. Ide could receive phone calls from Tokyo, but he could only call them through Takano. Therefore, Tomitake was the key. Unless Ide rescued him, they couldn't possibly win. But Ide wasn't like the Mountain Dogs. He was simply a researcher. There was no way Ide could rescue Tomitake from such a high-security area. There were 8 Mountain Dogs in the building. There were usually only 2, but Takano had called in more. Of course, the basement was a highly secured area, and one needed an access card to get in. That card was only given to people in Ide's position. In addition to the access card, one would need a fingerprint match as well. The access card alone wouldn't do it. Therefore, the only person who could rescue Tomitake from that high-security basement was Ide. And so, even if it was impossible, Ide had to do it. Ide bunched up his hands into fists and held them tight to encourage himself, but he only noticed that his fists were shaking. Call Akasaka. Ide, did you forget? Ide remembered what Akasaka told him, thank God.
自らの危機を図るのはまだ大丈夫。 多分少しでも嫌な予感がしたら陰謀の度合いから考えてくれぐれもご用心を。
Idiot felt the cold sweat pooling on his back. Was this the emergency Akasaka was talking about? Abso-fucking-lutely! What do you mean, what? He shouldn't think that it was still okay. He might lose the chance to run. He realized that trying to do something by himself was foolish. He had a security access card, true, but that didn't mean he had to rescue Tomitake by himself. Just like how everyone else was trying to combine their efforts, he should also ask for help. Also, Tomitake was in their hands, which meant that the mountain dogs had realized they were under attack and were preparing to counter. It was very possible they were suspicious of Irie too. Once they broke into Rika's house, Irie's lives would be exposed. Indeed, this was the emergency Akasaka was talking about. Irie had realized that. He was already in danger. He needed to leave immediately. The Sonozaki residence was their gathering spot in case of an emergency. His allies were congregating at the Sonozaki residence. He should explain the situation to them and think about how to rescue Tomitake. Takano probably wouldn't kill Tomitake immediately. She was intending to kill him that night as the 5th year's curse, so there was still a little time left. He had allies, and with his security access card, there was still a chance to rescue him. Irie had to let Akasaka know that he was escaping. If they became suspicious of Irie, they would check the house, and Akasaka would be in danger too. In other words, it could cause a chain reaction. Irie didn't miss his last chance to escape, but he still had to do his final job. Irie picked up the phone on his desk, called Rika's home number, and left. It would continue to ring like that, sounding the emergency signal. Irie thought back to when he wondered how long he was going to stay in this director's room. Never knew this day would come so suddenly. He noticed the framed picture of his parents on his desk. Irie had become a doctor so he could clear up the misunderstanding between his parents and regain his family ties. But how did he get involved in something like this? No, he would return. He would return and continue the fight against Hinamizawa syndrome. He vowed to himself that he would never abandon that responsibility. Irie said his final goodbye and left the director's office.
サンサ所長室の内線から外線へ通話中です。電話番号は R 宅です。
え、どういうことそれ？盗聴できるの？
もちろんです。ここでもモニターできます。
And it's just gonna ring. One of the members flipped a switch. There was the sound of a ringtone.
このタイミング。
やはり R は在宅していて、富武を捕らえたことを連絡しようとして。
ありえないことじゃ。聞かれてるとも知らずに。
What was Irie going to talk about? Takano waited patiently to eavesdrop on a conversation, but of course it never... It just sits there and rings. And there was nothing but a ringtone. It had been over 30 seconds. There was no answer. Nobody was home.
所長も根気があります。必ずいるはずだという。裏口のモニターカメラに所長の姿が。
The black and white quad display monitor showed Irie running out the back
どうい
door.
うこと？じゃあ誰が所長室から電話をしているの？
Takano became utterly confused, but the ringtone continued. Couldn't be. Takano finally realized what was going on.
罠よ。奴は私たちが監視しているのを知って。入江は裏切り者のだ。捕らえて。
Yeah, of course she wouldn't know that it's a... She thinks it's a trap to get eyes off of him, but she doesn't know it's a signal to warn Akasaka.
一回保安室。入江所長を制圧。標的は裏口から職員駐車場へ。
Two mountain dogs who were playing cards in the security room on the first floor jumped into action. The security room was located next to the back door, so Irie was still within reach. Irie had made a serious mistake. He could have left the clinic during the 30 seconds Takano and her men were listening to the ringtone. When he got to the parking lot, he realized he forgot his car key on his desk in the director's office, so he had to go back and get it. It was only at this point that he realized he shouldn't have gone back. He should have escaped on foot. Oh, Irie. But Irie wasn't used to emergencies, unlike Akasaka. Still... fucking sprinting out the back door and then being like, oh god, I gotta go back for my keys. Like, no. If you go fucking on my keys, you just fucking book it. Go into the town center, right? Run towards civilization, where they won't just do shit in broad daylight. It was a typical mistake any normal person who had never gone through anything dangerous would make. I don't know if any normal person would be like, I gotta go back inside. I don't know about that. I could see being like, yo, him forgetting his keys, I'm not judging him for that one. I could see being like, I have to get out of here. I have to get out of here. I sent the signal with the phone. I'm booking it. Right? But then to be like, oh, fuck, I left my keys in the office. Shit. And be like, okay, I gotta go back inside. Like, no. put me in this situation 10 times out of 10, I'm not fucking going back inside. I'll be like, fuck, I'm sprinting and praying for the best. Because that's the best shot you got. To go back. No, that is not a mistake any normal person would make. Leaving the keys, that's a mistake a normal person would make. That one, I don't fault him for. Turning around? Ridiculously fucking dumb. Although he made mistakes, he didn't forget to call Akasaka. Well, thank God you did that one. People usually became extremely clumsy when they're in a rush. All he has to do was turn the key, but he couldn't even do that smoothly. He kept turning the key. Oh, I see what you're telling me. So while they were distracted, he did make it to the parking lot, realized he forgot his keys, and went back in, then ran back out. So once the distraction was so if he had remembered his keys the first time, they would have never seen him on the cameras. Gotcha. Finally, the engine started. Ide still thought he was alright. Even if one of them questioned him, all he would have to do was say he was going out to get something. When he released the handbrake with his slightly left hand, he saw two of the mountain dogs dashing out of the back door. As two of them looked around, Ide's eyes met with one of theirs in the rearview mirror. He pointed at Ide's car, and the two of them started running towards it. The two of them looked extremely serious, and certainly not like they were chasing after him to return a dropped pen. Ide's body was soaked with sweat. Put it in drive! Put it in drive! I know there's like the flight or fight response shit going on. You like never actually know. Like obviously you wouldn't know what to do to you're in that situation, all that shit. God, I put it in drive. Before the two of them could jump on the car, Ide stomped on the gas pedal and the car took off after spinning its wheels. Thank Christ. Of course, the dogs didn't give up. They got into their own car and started to chase after Ide.
保安より本所長は車両で逃走強制停車させますか
三佐高野よおそらく行き先はフルデ神社に行かれたら今日は人だらけ多少の怪我も構わん行かせてはダメ強引に停車させなさい
保安了解これより強制停念のためバックアップを送れ本部了解ウグイスをバックアップに送るだがバックアップは待つな直ちに制圧せよ
Mountain dogs had Ide's car in their view as it ran away at full speed. They have to find a perfect spot and timing to stop him. It's not easy to drive a car when you're in a rush. Of course, the more you step on the gas pedal, the more speed you gain. When you're in a hurry, you can't control the steering wheel well enough to escape quickly. Ide could see his pursuers in his rearview mirror and was completely distracted by that. Oh, God. He's not going to think of something popping out in front of him. His driving was so reckless that he could easily get into an accident on his own. That's exactly what's going to happen. As the fear was driving him into confusion, he made a wrong turn. That mistake made him even more confused and panicked. Although the two guys were ordered to stop him, they were starting to think Ide is going to get into an accident without them doing anything. They'd rather not drag this into a car chase they didn't have to.
隊長だこちら保安車両現在追跡中現在地は5丁目付近林道詳細な位置は
本部要請につきバックアップに到達予定は15分こっちは当てにす俺だって間に合うわけねえと思ってんだ
Okanogi grumbled. He had to leave Okonomi in a hurry to respond to Major Princess. But because of the distance, there was no way he could get there in time. Even so, he was still ordered to provide backup. He could have explained, but the princess wouldn't have listened to him anyway. The mountain dogs who were with Okanogi smiled bitterly.
追跡の方角は
最悪の場合町の方へね
そいつは許す山狩りはしてやる足を破壊しそこに人目は武装は
両脇は深い森林人目はなし武装は保安車両常備の短期間銃が1
The guy in the passenger seat reclined it and climbed into the back. He lifted one of the seats and took out a black machine gun. The paint on one corner was coming off, and the shiny silver metal was exposed. It was a machine gun, but didn't look as powerful as an ordinary one. However, once the dog extended his shoulder stock and set it in place, the weapon looked far more vicious. Then the back seat looked at the uniquely shaped gun barrel. It was thick and long.
SD3 サイレンサー付き
発砲を許可するフルバーストでタイヤを発
保安車両を攻撃する
The guy in the back seat opened up the driver's side back window and leaned out of the car. His sharp eyes aimed at one of the tires on Ide's vehicle. It was a straight road. Ide's car was weaving, but not enough to avoid a shot. The pursuers had his car in their sights. They were trying to get as close to Ide's car as possible, but they were afraid they might get caught up if overturned. They soon decided that this was as close as they were going to get.
3カウントで発砲する3、2、1
As sound the machine gun made was a lot quieter than what people would imagine, but its power was unimaginable. One of the tires in Irie's car was cut to shreds and collapsed in a puff of white smoke. Because one tire collapsed, all of a sudden, Irie lost control of his car. Tried to steer away, but that made things even worse. Yeah, overcorrecting. As it spun, Irie's car drove down the shoulder of the road and slid down the slope into the forest. Sound of trees breaking and the car being battered from every direction disappeared down the slope. The pursuers stopped their car and looked down after it, but the plants were growing so high it was impossible to check from there.
攻撃成功。標的車両は斜面を転落。死亡の可能性もこれより徒歩で追跡。
大鳥湾了解。ウグイスが周囲を探し、運が良ければ合流するだろう。こっちは相変わらずお前らが頼りだ。頼むぞ。
了解。更新を行くぞ。
Mountain dogs left their car and headed into the woods without hesitation. Alright, but unfortunately, that is where I have to wrap it up here for today. God, this is exciting. God, this is exciting, because clearly Akasaka is about to do something. Both Irie and Tomitake are compromised. Akasaka, I don't know what he's about to pull off, but he's about to pull off something. Oishi's still manning his post at the police station. That's still going. Right? And as long as he's keeping people out of there, the more time he stalls, the more pressure it puts on Takano. It's very exciting. It's very, very exciting. Let me double check my save. We're good. Alright, I'm going to exit to the main menu so I don't have to hear this fucking phone ringing. Oh, but things are moving. But things are absolutely moving. It's very, very exciting. Ugh. I hate that I don't have more time this week to record because, God, I'm so excited to see where this continues to go. Because this is just kind of with, like, some of our side players, right? We haven't, seen the main cast come to the picture. And you'd think, like, oh, well, the main cast can't put up with, like, these trained soldiers and whatnot. Sure. But there's no way they're not going to have a big final moment. There's no way the club is not going to have this big final moment. There's just no way. In one way or another, there's got to be something there. So the fact that we haven't even seen anything of our main cast of this first day, on the eve of this day, everything happened around like 5, 6 in the morning. Now it's, a little past 9. I'm very excited. I'm so excited to see where things continue to go from here. Oh my God. But like I said, I do have to wrap this one up here for today. So thank you to anyone watching. It's all much appreciated. And hopefully I will see y'all in the next one. But until then, peace.